believe in the existence of extraterrestrials?
Oh, rats. Oh, on a second. Oh, there it is. Oh, on a second. Oh, there it is. Oh, great. Hold on. I did it again, folks. Oh, there it is. Oh, great. I've got it. I did it again here, and I got to find it right now. Oh, great. I've got it. I did it again here, and I got to find it right now. I've got it. I did it again here, and I got to find it right now. I've got it. I did it again here, and I got it. I got it. Let me start this. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this podcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Wednesday, December 18th, 2024, as we close out the year and bring back one of our favorite guests. We haven't on for a while. Yes, Mr. Lue Elizondo. Holy cow, friends. Yes, we've been waiting for this one for a long time. It's set to be one heck of a great show. So without any further ado, I'm going to skip the intros of the audience. I want to go ahead and bring in Mike, Disclosure. How's it going, Mike?
Oh, it's going well, and we're going to have a very special episode for our audience tonight with our good friend Lue Elizondo. This is going to be a hell of a conversation about everything going on.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. Without further ado, let me jump into the interview location and pull it out, and let's go ahead and say, hey, Mr. Lue Elizondo, how you doing today, my friend? Long time no see.
Thomas, Mike, I'm doing very well. Thank you so much for having me this evening. And a huge shout out to your wonderful audience. Great to be back in the saddle with y'all.
Absolutely, you better believe it, my friend. Jumping straight to the point, drones have been the topic of the government, of the people for a long period of time. Our government seems to be covering it up. You've been out on 7 interviews to talk about it today. It seems to be a troubling situation to look like. We've got these vehicles that are out there. They're about the size of an SUV flying around. There's a specific morphology that's kind of come out of a whole bunch of different sightings. We've got the White House, John Kirby specifically, and the DOD trying to find every single reason in the book to not talk about the ones that are out there. They're saying, yeah, we have the ones that are actually planes and ones that are helicopters and ones that are Venus for that matter. But in reality, we know we're not talking about those. It's those couple hundred other sightings, if not more, that I've seen out there that really look like an advanced if you want to call a drone from Pterodynamics out of Colorado, advanced, four-rotor drones that are out there, relatively large, maybe not the XP4, but maybe the XP6 or XP7 to a degree. And we just have to look at that and say, the government is saying there is no national security risk from the drones in the air. They're denying that they're ours, but it's not maybe the risk that's in the air, it's the risk that's on the ground.
Yeah. Wow. So let's talk about drones, shall we? First of all, I back a long time ago when I was a young special agent, I was actually in the drone business with the U.S. government. Oh, wow. Long time ago, we're talking 20, 25 years ago, where drones were really just nascent. They were just glorified remote-controlled airplanes. So I worked with the Army's Pioneer and Hunter UAV program. Later on, they had a program called Dark Star, not the one that's been popularized, of course, by the recent Top Gun movie, but the real Dark Star. It was an Army UAV program, low observable. Other ones like Cypher, and these were the beginning of to where we are today. They were the genesis. And when people say that, we've just now been dealing with this drone issue, looking at Russia and the Ukraine and weaponization of drones. That's not true. 20 years ago, there was a full field FBI investigation, criminal investigation and prosecution of individuals who were taking remote controlled airplanes, and they were going to weaponize them and fly them into the White House. So that is an example of a drone, right? It's just, they called it remote controlled airplanes back then because we didn't understand that there would be this entire industry of remote controlled helicopters and quadcopters and planes that would then, make up this drone topic that we're on. And then, of course, 4 years ago, we had the drone incidents over Colorado and Kansas and Nebraska, where local law enforcement, state law enforcement, and even the FBI were involved. And very, very strangely, eerily similar to what we are seeing in New Jersey and other parts of the continental United States, and now even internationally. I think you're right. I think there's certainly a lot of drones in the sky. Something like 1 million of them, right, are being legally operated. But we all know what a drone looks like. Looks like a little quadcopter. Maybe if not 4, maybe 8 propellers or 6. But long story short, they're relatively similar and they're relatively small. I can't recall the last time I saw a civilian or a commercial drone that was the size of a SUV or a school bus, as was described by one person. I don't know any drones that fly silent unless they're very, very high altitude or a military type application drone. I don't know any commercial or private recreational drones that can fly beyond line of sight, right, beyond the 9 or 10 miles of the curvature of the Earth, and then you have to have some sort of repeating capability, whether airborne or spaceborne platform to repeat the signal so you can fly the darn thing. And I certainly don't know of any privately owned drones that can loiter for 5 to 10 hours and cover these great distances. Now, on top of that, you have an origins issue, right? Where are these drones coming from, and where are they landing? And with all these people seeing them in the sky, no one has reported them taking off or landing. They're just there all of a sudden. If you talk to the White House, they'll tell you all these are legally operated aircraft, either civilian or military or drones. But if that's the case, you wouldn't be shutting down military bases because of drone incursions. You wouldn't have this issue over in Europe. Where I just came back from London, where there have been incidents continue to happen to this day. Incidents where drones are, drones are being witnessed in and around joint military bases, U.S.-UK military bases. It's happening in South America. It's happening in Australia. It's happening in Germany. So these things are happening a lot. I just received an update about 5 minutes before I joined your show that there's an uptick in Italy as well. So, someone's not telling the whole truth. Now, at the end of the day, could most of these drones be foreign adversarial? Sure. Could they be ours? Sure. Could they be something else, or could they be a result of something else? Basically, a predicate. So, times have changed the way we respond to threat incidents. And in the old days, we used to send up helicopters, manned helicopters. But of course, you had to have a crew, and they'd have to be on standby. Otherwise, you'd have to wake them out of bed, and they'd have to start the helicopter. It's a process. It takes time. Yeah. We're at the point now where we have the technology to geofence any area we want, and if something breaks the perimeter, drones are automatically deployed without even a human being part of the equation to go out and scout out and see what the issue is. There is some anecdotal evidence to suggest that maybe this drone issue is really a multi-pronged issue. It's not just drones; it might be something else as well. So very interesting. I'm very disappointed by the way the White House and the Department of Defense is handling this. I am glad they briefed Congress, but if all these are commercial aircraft and law enforcement aircraft and civilian drones, why have a classified briefing?
Bingo.
And why can't you tell the American public? That doesn't make sense. I am certain that our elected leaders in Congress are probably satisfied with the answers they were given. The government can be very convincing at times when giving a briefing, but there's still some outstanding questions as to why aren't the American people being informed directly? And why are there so many videos now of these things over Andrews Air Force Base, Langley Air Force Base, all these restricted places, if these things are flying legally? Right. I don't understand that.
It's almost like I think we've got a couple different types drones we're seeing out there. The ones that are hanging out over our nuke base, where our bases where we may have nuclear material. Highly likely what we're dealing with is a non-human intelligence. But if we're going and seeing these drones that are like flying on the East Coast, you know, their government wants to come out and say there's absolutely no, if you want to call it, there's no risk or there's no danger from these drones that are in the air. For me, that makes it feel like while they're denying that they're ours, they could be ours. And one of the potential scenarios that could be out there, because these drones are moving in a grid pattern back and forth, that these things could potentially try to be sniffing for some kind of a lost WMD or some kind of radioactive material.
Right. Well, that certainly was one of the theories, working theories, and you know, anecdotally, it actually makes sense to some degree. But you know, when they come out with statements like "there's no threat here," well, wait a minute, you don't know where they're coming from, you don't know where they're going, you don't know how they're operating, and you don't know who's operating it. How can you know that they're not a threat? How do you know? Look, we can see that they've been weaponized in the Ukraine and Russia right now to a very, very effective level. So my question to you is, what's stopping some bad guy here trying to do a repeat of what happened 20 years ago and weaponize these things, or maybe try to spill some sort of biological, chemical thing? Who the hell knows, right? Now, let me be clear here. I'm not saying that's what's happening. Okay, so let me just make sure your audience is very clear. I'm not trying to fearmonger here. I'm just trying to simply talk about some of the hypothetical what ifs and try to logically break down the argument that the White House put out that there's nothing to see here, folks, because there's a lot to see here. And I'm concerned if people just take that answer at face value. They have been wrong over and over and over and over again, especially on this topic. Why would you believe them now?
Right.
You know, it just there's some very specific questions I certainly would like answered, and I would love an opportunity for whatever briefing was provided to Congress to be provided, redacted if you have to, provide it to the American people. I think that's a cop-out just to give it to Congress and be like, don't worry about it, folks, we're taking care of it. You know, that's I don't need a nanny state. I need a state that's going to be honest and truthful and transparent with me.
And as we know, U.S. Air Force and U.S. Space Force with the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency has the ability to go ahead and see an object about this size from the surface of the water out to beyond the orbit of the moon. And for our government to say that we don't know where they're coming from, what they're going to, where they're going back to, what's going on. Even President-elect Trump came out and said the other day, the president knows what's going on. The White House knows. The DOD knows what's going on. And the American people deserve to know what's going on.
Yeah, they do. Of course they know. And look, we forget that this government is for the people by the people. It works for us, not the other way around. And so for someone to make a unilateral decision, say, nah, we're not going to inform the American public. Hey, buddy, guess what? Don't forget, we're your boss now, right? Yeah. So when I was in the government, you know, I had a government boss, but you guys, the civilians, were always my boss. Well, guess what? I'm a civilian now, and the government, we are the government's boss, and we need to remember that as citizens. It's important, and they should be working, you know, for our betterment and welfare, and telling us the truth. You know, let us make a decision on what a national priority is. I don't want some bureaucratic half-assed joker in the Pentagon or in the CIA making that decision, or in the National Security Council. You know, I want either the president or the American people or our elected officials who represent us making those decisions. And I'm afraid that's just not what we have right now. Forgive me for railing on this. I mean, obviously, I haven't had enough sleep, and I'm probably a bit emotional about it. But you know, how many times are we going to sit there and just be spoon-fed malarkey? I mean, look at the Afghanistan withdrawal. Oh, Afghanistan was a success. Are you kidding me? There's pictures of human beings clinging onto the skin of a C-17, facing their assured death because we've screwed up so bad.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just one example over and over again. Look at what happened in the Middle East. Within 30 days of the National Security Council, the head of the National Security Council coming out, and the National Security Advisor saying, oh, the Middle East is as safe as it's ever been. We had what happened with Hamas and Israel. So time and time again, this, and let me also caveat here, forgive me for saying this, but this is politics aside, okay? When I was in the government, I worked for liberals, I worked for conservatives, and everybody in between. And whoever was president, that was my boss, and I would salute smartly, and I would execute my mission. This is not a political thing. This is an incompetence thing. And by the way, it can affect both Republicans and Democrats equally. It just so happens this administration right now happens to be very incompetent. Now, maybe there are some specific reasons why. Maybe there's good reasons why. Fine. But nonetheless, you got to level with the American people. And right now, this administration has not and continues not to. Look at when they were trying to cover the poor fella, his health condition. I'm sure he didn't ask for that. He doesn't deserve to endure that. But don't lie about a situation that everybody sees and it is obvious. And this is just another example of with drones. Again, not being political here. So let me just reemphasize. I'm just saying proof is in the pudding. How many times are we going to have an organization lie to us before we get wise and say, you know what? I want a better answer than that. Don't tell me not to worry about it because you don't even know where they're coming from. So how the hell can you be qualified to tell me not to worry about it?
Oh, I'm there with you completely, Lou. And you know what this stinks of? This stinks of the same reason why you left the Pentagon in the first place, about the cover-up, about their unwilling to acknowledge the national security risk of these unknown objects coming and interacting with our warships, interacting with our military bases, interacting with our airman in the sky. And it just seems like it's that same rollover, that same thing we've been hearing for a while.
Thomas, these things have been seen splitting combat formations right down the middle. Now, think about a combat formation of two F-18s, how close they fly, right? Imagine a UAP coming so close that it actually forces the pilots to break away. That is what these pilots are seeing. And we have civilian ATC in Oregon, just maybe with Washington, this last week. I mean, it's really at this point kind of the worst kept secret.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Since we're talking about this, I want to do a little cutaway here for a second. Let me go ahead and bring this next one up. Video guest. All right, this is a video we have of Malta, of an air show going on with the Red Arrows. They're equivalent to the Blue Angels in the United States. But here, this is over Malta. Right? Yeah, this is them flying over Malta, and they're just going ahead and they're doing a maneuver. Just after they do a maneuver, if I go ahead and start going frame by frame, now this is recorded at 120 frames a second, so you're actually able to see it. These things are moving at 14,000 miles an hour based on this jet fighter going at approximately 500 miles per hour. And sure enough, let me go ahead and bring it along. Here comes this UAP flying at 14,000 miles an hour, coming in within 70 feet of the jet fighter, coming right in front, inserting themselves into the maneuver, and then shooting off the screen. This is the kind of stuff you're talking about.
There is, believe it or not, a lot of videos right now when you slow it down frame by frame. There's one in Chile, a famous one also in Argentina, air show. Denver's got a couple videos, and even one in the Washington, D.C. area, that when you slow the video frame by frame during these air shows, you see things like this coming out of frame. And in some cases, looks like almost like they're surveilling the aircraft or maneuvering very close to it. Now, interestingly enough, let me also say, playing devil's advocate here, someone could turn around very easily and say, oh, that's an insect flying from one side of the screen to the other. And because it's a little tiny bug and it's, flying in front very fast of a little screen, that's what you see. Yeah. I hear that all the time, and that's fine for people who have their opinions. I'm not a video expert like some claim to be. Yeah. And I'd love to have some video analysis done of this video, but I will tell you, this is not the first time I've seen video like this, Thomas. There were a lot of them that we had even in ATIP back at the Pentagon that were very similar to what you're showing me here. Yeah.
Now, I do have another video we'll bring up right now where we have that same little object hanging aloft over the buildings before this actually went on. And in this video itself, there's actually 3 of these that go flying across the screen. Only one of them goes in the back and comes across. And trust me, I've looked at hundreds, if not thousands, of videos with insects. Right. Insects have wings that flap.
Right.
You can see it. This does not have that. So anyway, I just want to bring that up there just to get, since we're talking about.
I think it's a great point because, if this turns out to be a real UAP, you can see that there's definitely an air hazard issue, right? There's a flight safety issue. And now what if these weren't military aircraft, but commercial 747s, right? With 280 people sipping cocktails and on their way to, their holiday destination. It's a problem. It's a problem. By the way, guys, let me just caveat here. We are, as you know, I live in the middle of nowhere, Wyoming, and as wonderful as it is, we experience very severe windstorms, and we're actually having one of those right now. So if my connection is a little spotty, forgive me. I'm running a connection off of a tower, and it is very susceptible to wind, especially when the winds get over 65, 70. It can, I'm in the basement right now, so I don't really hear much, but I can tell with the internet connection that it gets a little spotty when the wind gets up. So I just want to give you a heads up.
Fine. I had windstorms going here the other night.
It's not NSA interfering with the broadcast.
Not at all. Not at all. Mike, did you have a question you wanted to go next?
No, not a question. I was listening to the points that Lou was making about these video and the UAP. Listen, Lou, I understand that when you were in ATIP, a lot of the videos that you saw, some were very eye-catching. You've stated as such publicly. There were things that if the public saw, they would be convinced almost automatically of what they were seeing was not man-made. That would include that, like the video that Thomas just played with the air show. They seem to try to be a part of the show.
I mean, yeah, we had some that was extremely clear, though. Let me be specific here. Some of these were, 4K, ultra high definition videos taken from some very sensitive, very capable platforms. No blurriness at all. Super, super, super clear, multispectral type images. And what people don't realize with a photograph, there are certain things you can do if you collect the image the right way. There's layers to a photograph. Depending on the frequency of light and whatnot, and some other things that I won't go into detail over this. But long story short is you can actually peel back some of these layers to determine if something is a camera lens flare or an artifact of the software or whatever. And that wasn't the case. We were dealing with a real object in many of these videos that we came across. And it didn't stop with ATIP. When I worked at U.S. Space Force, working specifically, look, I haven't been given approval to talk about it, but there's ample documentation that's substantiating what I'm saying here. So when I left ATIP, I was asked to go work at U.S. Space Force, and that's how I know Dave Grush. And let me tell you, Dave Grush saw a lot of stuff. He saw the same stuff I did and some other stuff. So this is why I think people like Dave feel so compelled, because we've seen the imagery, we've seen the telemetry data, we've seen we have seen stuff that we can't even admit we've seen, because then we have to admit there's a certain capability that does what we saw. And what we collected on, right? The platform that we used to collect the information. So a lot of that stuff will never see the day, but I am confident that as time goes on, and probably in the near future, maybe this year even, there may be some more images released, hopefully by the Pentagon through official channels. I will tell you, 2025, Mike, I think is going to be one hell of a year for us. There are things that are going on right now, sub rosa, that are going to knock your socks off. When people, see what's coming down the pike, it's going to be a holy smokes moment.
Yeah. Well, talking about that really quick, 2025 it's one of the top the headlines for the show today. We thought we were in a good place with the Biden administration 4 years ago, and then everything kind of went south. Now with the Trump administration coming forward, now I believe the Trump administration is when they actually formed the UAPTF, and also when they went and actually started the Space Force. Yeah, I mean, look, the National Security Council, the current one, has been very anti-UAP. In fact, we had an insider there that was ready to champion this cause. I'm not going to say the person's name, but very, very senior. If I said the name, everybody would know who this person is. He came back to the administration and had proposed to reinvigorate the UAP investigations. And he was shut down unceremoniously by the National Security Council. They said, "We do not want to talk about it. We don't want to hear about it. This is not a topic we're going to discuss." So that was a very clear indicator that we did not have the executive level support that we hoped. And maybe it would also explain why Arrow, its first year or two was such an abysmal failure. I suspect because they did not have the support, they didn't have the resources. They said they had the authorities, but they didn't really have the authorities. They didn't have teeth. And so when you have an obscure, toothless organization, you're not going to be very combat effective. And so I'm very, very optimistic now with the
the new administration. Again, let me caveat again, because people see everything behind my wall and they assume I'm one political affiliation, and they have no clue my political affiliation. I am very patriotic, and you can be a liberal and be patriotic, and you can be a conservative and be patriotic. So the bottom line, though, that this administration is far more proactive towards disclosure, this new one. Several members, cabinet members, very senior people, are very woke to this topic. They are very sensitive to it, and I think a positive way, and they want truth and transparency to be made available to the American people. So from that perspective, again, politics aside, I think this administration is far more proactive than what we're used to seeing, not only with the last one, but maybe even the first time Trump was president. I think he had a lot more to risk, but this is his last time being president, right? He can't be reelected. So if he wants to make a name for himself and he wants to really make an impact for this next century, now's the time to do it.
No, absolutely. Because even if you look at, like you're talking about, superstars that he's got in there, James Ratcliffe, former ODNI, who had said more things about disclosure and UFOs and the footage we have and what he was trying to do before they got out of office. He's now heading up the CIA at this point. So that's...
And it ain't just him, brother.
I know.
Ain't just him. I mean, there's a whole laundry list of individuals.
RFK Jr., who said he wanted to declassify this stuff if he got elected as president, and there's just one after the other. We got Vivek Ramsey, who had said he wanted to bring out the truth, and there's all these superstars in there.
Yes, sir. And there's more. Again, I'm going to let them get into place. I'm not going to make their lives miserable by saying their names, because next thing you know, all my haters are going to lump me with them, and then all of a sudden now they're going to get a bunch of hate mail too. So I'm not going to mention names. I've learned my lesson, but there are some really good senior people that are coming into the administration that I have faith and confidence in, and I think they're going to do a hell of a job as it relates to disclosure.
Absolutely. Now, as I've been telling my audience, I'm kind of in the same position of you. I've been talking positive about Trump with regards to it, because in the position we're at, even during the election, several times he said he's going to bring out the truth. But this is really not, like you're saying, it's not a partisan issue. It's a bipartisan issue.
That's right.
Disclosure is for the people, not beyond just the people of America. It's for humanity in general.
In fact, it's not even bipartisan. It's nonpartisan, because there's other independents and other parties, affiliations, people who don't even ascribe to being part of a party that this topic relates to. And so, I find it interesting, of all the topics that Congress can actually agree on, this is one of the few that they actually, most of them anyways, there's a few outliers, but most of them agree that in one way, shape, or form, we need transparency and we need disclosure in some form. So that's monumental, and that didn't happen by accident. That took a lot of work and campaigning. I don't mean campaigning in a political sense. I mean advocacy, right? And spending times on airplanes and in airports talking to these individuals and getting them the classified briefings, and getting these whistleblowers to come up that aren't ready to come out yet publicly, but maybe privately they're willing to have a private conversation with an elected official. And it's tough. And then you got to sit down with each one of these individuals like a human being, because they are human. And at the end of the day, they've got mortgages to pay, kids to put through college. And, you've got maybe 7.5 minutes, if you're lucky, to tell them what you think. Right. And not tell them what to think, just tell them what you think or what I think, and give them some ammunition to fight the good fight. So I'm very pleased where we are with that. I think some of the problems we have right now, and ironically enough, because Thomas and Mike, I just had this discussion with a mainstream media host. And we got off tangent for a little bit, started talking about social media and how dangerous social media can be, but also what a blessing it is, right? So you have shows like you, where you guys are committed to the truth and transparency, and that does a lot of good. You reach a lot of people. In fact, I'd submit to you that there's people that probably watch your show and don't watch mainstream media, because they prefer getting their news and their information from you, which I think is great. But then again, with every one of you, there are organizations or people that are trying to convolute and mislead people. And some of it is for attention and clicks and likes, because they have this little monetization thing going, and they're, controversy is good for them. That's their business. kind of a Jerry Springer type mentality. And then you have other people that have agendas that maybe they're being paid by somebody to actually purposely misinform. And then you've got a lot of charlatans out there that have been doing a pretty good job of creating a cottage industry for themselves by trying to manipulate the public and, charging $10,000,
$10,000 to watch a flare be shot at. DC Muscle Wolf. Yeah, we're familiar with that.
Exactly. You know who I'm talking about, right? So, and then for some reason, people still, believe those kind of people. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, look, I guess P.T. Barnum was right. There's a sucker born every minute. But those are part of some of the challenges we're facing now. Some of the disinformation that's coming out still from the government. Fortunately, a lot of these people that were responsible the last 4 years for this disinformation are going to be gone very soon. So I'm very optimistic that we're going to start seeing narratives being corrected towards the truth. I think we made it through the storm. I'm not saying we're through the storm completely yet, but if I'm not mistaken, the seas are getting a little calmer, and I think I see some sunlight there over the horizon. So, I think we've made tremendous progress, all of us together, over the last 7 years.
As long as it's not a ship coming over the horizon with the conquistadors and we're the Indians.
Right. There's an old saying, the light at the end of the tunnel might be an oncoming train if you're not careful. So,
so
what you wish for.
So,
Exactly.
Back getting to the end of the politics here, just if you could spin, roll the dice, spin it, or just guess from your best guesstimate, what percentage would you give that the Trump administration gives us a significant move forward in disclosure?
Oh, that's happening. That I'd say damn near 100%. The problem is everybody has a different measure for what they consider, significant. Some people, unless they have an alien sitting down at Thanksgiving with them, that's not enough, right? Other people say, look, if my government just finally says, yeah, that's real, we're not really quite sure what to do with it yet, but we're trying to figure it out. That'll be enough. And then for other people, it's just putting time, money, and resources and more laws on the books to continue to study this. And once you start seeing government grants being released to the academic and scientific community, we're there.
Imagine if they took the $3 billion they had in the omnibus bill they're trying to pass for the budget today that got shut down, that they were going to use to go ahead and build an NFL stadium in Washington, D.C., if they put that into the hands for disclosure. Incredible,
right? Incredible. I was just having this conversation too with another person. We were talking about money and how the U.S. government has to do these emergency bills to keep the government running. And so if the government needs another $2 billion to run for the next 4 months, 2 months, they have to pass a bill that's $20 billion. Because in order to pass it, everybody gets to put their own little chunk in there. And what winds up happening is that the $2 billion that you needed winds up getting inflated to $20 billion. And now that debt is shouldered on the taxpayer, right?
Yeah.
So there's a problem with that. This goes to bigger political reform issues that probably we don't want to get into on your show. But it's a symptom of what we are seeing, what we're seeing with this lack of communication on the drone issue is a symptom of a greater problem. Yeah. And this problem is something I've been discussing lately about corruption. I don't know, Thomas, if you know the story, or Mike, but in my book, I talk about my mother passing away. My father, who I was very close to, very, very volatile man, loved him dearly, but he was a very tortured soul, I guess, because of experiences as a revolutionary and in Castro's prisons and whatnot. But long story short, I knew my father. My father passed away 2 years ago on Father's Day, and I knew that he was going to die. He never told me, by the way. He kept it from me, but I knew in my heart of hearts the last month he was going to go. He wasn't going to make it. So we decided.
We were on the phone with you, if you remember, 2 years ago when you were driving your father back down to Florida.
That was it. So that drive, less than a few weeks later, he was dead. But my point being to this is that when we were driving somewhere through Kansas, it was kind of a quiet moment during our drive. I asked him a question, and looking back, I almost feel ashamed because I said it so flippantly. But my father took it with grace. And I said, Dad, in your opinion, what do you think is the greatest threat to any nation or humanity? And he thought for a moment. Now, keep in mind, I'm thinking, is it some sort of global pandemic? Is it transnational terrorism? What is it? He looks at me and he says, son, it's corruption. And I said, corruption? Like financial corruption? And he said, no, son, corruption. Corruption is the act, any act where you give up a core value of yours in exchange for something else, right? That's a corrupt act. And so whether it's religious corruption, financial corruption, governmental corruption, right? Corruption is corruption. And in the government, particularly when you have corruption, you begin to chisel away the very foundations of democracy. And from there, it's a very slippery slope to tyranny if you're not careful. And so that's why when you have corrupt individuals, and it doesn't have to even be financially, guys, right? In government position of authority, where someone believes they can make the unilateral decision on behalf of the American people to keep this topic quiet and not inform Congress and not inform the president, right? Yeah. That's a corrupt act. That's the problem with that, because they are exercising authority for which they do not have, and they're making decisions based upon an understanding that is incorrect. And so, again, what we're dealing with the drones, kind of circle it back to the drones. The drones is just a symptom of a bigger issue here, guys. And by the way, this is an issue that doesn't just affect the Democrats. It affects the Republicans just as much. So, this is not a free pass for the Republicans. Anybody who's hearing this conversation, we all have to do a better job of policing ourselves. Oh, yeah. and holding ourselves accountable, and the American people holding our elected officials and our government accountable as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just if I go ahead and bring up the studio lights for a little bit, if you take a look at the audience out there, Lou, just to let you know, we have almost 3,500 people watching the podcast right now.
Wow. Well, I apologize to you that they have to endure looking at this.
They're here for you, my friend.
I haven't had much sleep. So again, my apologies, folks. And I got to be up early in the morning. So this is as good as it gets.
Oh, I've been getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've been doing this show 7 days a week ever since the whole drone situation came out. And yes, I'm running out of gas myself, my friend. I get that as well.
You look good, though. You don't look tired like I do. You look great.
Well, I've got some bags here. Got to have fun with it. Coming in from one of my friends, Mike Morris, I think Mr. Morris. One of the things he wanted to ask a question was, where did that go? Here we go. As you know, David Grush has talked about agreements, and then Colonel Nell at the SALT conference has talked about agreements. Can you explain what agreements are referencing? Do you believe we have agreements in place between us and the NHI? If so, how long have they been effective? I know this is just a lot of speculation, but you may have some just personal insights to how you feel about this.
No, good question. Well, there's two types of agreements, right? There's interpersonal and intrapersonal agreements. And communication. So when I say this is that if I'm in an office and I have a conversation amongst people within my own office, that's an intra communication or conversation. If I have it with the office across from me, now that's an inter-office conversation or communication. There have been within countries conversations about this topic. Absolutely. In fact, there was a treaty that was signed back in the late 60s and then again reviewed in the early 70s, where one of the paragraphs specifically stipulates with the Russians that if you see, this is during the height of the Cold War, and we were kind of reestablishing our northern tier, and we had nukes and Russia had nukes, and we had radars, they had radars. And so the idea was, as we were setting up new radar systems, both sides, we decided to do the smart thing and say, hey, look, if you happen to see something kind of weird and strange coming over the horizon, before you press the fire button, can you do us a favor and give us a call? Because it might be a UAP, and we don't want to confuse a UAP with a provocation for nuclear war. And so there were agreements between countries to collaborate on the UAP topic. In fact, most recently, a couple years ago, Japan came forward and wanted to enter into a bilateral information and intelligence sharing relationship with the U.S. government for the sole purposes of sharing UFO information. So yes, agreements exist. Now, if you're speaking about agreements that are interspecies, meaning
Oh, yeah. With us and them,
agreements
yeah.
with other entities. I will tell you, I have no personal firsthand knowledge. I mean, I can't confirm it. I have heard about it, but that doesn't mean
what have you heard about it, though?
Well, I've heard probably what you've heard, right? But I heard it while I was at the Pentagon, that there may have been agreements with particular
Things,
species or demographics. I don't know how you want to call it. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I've never seen a document between the two. I've never seen an intelligence information report that referenced it. It was anecdotal for me, but that's not to say that my colleagues like Dave and Carl haven't been privy to other things, because Carl was he was at the G2 as a full bird colonel, about to make general, and Carl was the first ever Army member of the UAP task force. He was assigned by the Army to be the UAP task force representative for the Army G2, which is intelligence for the entire United States Army. So a pretty big deal, a pretty big job. And Carl had access to a lot of things, as did a lot of my other colleagues. We shared and we collaborated a lot, but there were also times where Dave might be in a particular skiff and I might be in a different skiff, right? And so, we'll share information, but a lot of stuff, it's too much stuff that and you can't walk out of a skiff with a bunch of classified information. So, it could have been one of the things where they saw something. I have no reason to doubt what they say. I have never once a single time caught any of them saying one thing that I didn't know. I couldn't confirm or verify that I did not know to already be true. So, again, I don't know how to answer this because I don't have any necessarily direct knowledge of that. But that doesn't mean it didn't occur. It could very well have been that way, but that also means a lot of things. So if you have, you don't sign a peace treaty, you don't sign an agreement with a dog, right? Because you have to have a certain IQ and a certain intellectual capacity to understand what a contract is and what an agreement is and what a signature means, right? This is all in the legal construct of being a human. If something else abides by that, then one must presume or assume that whatever it is entering in that agreement with you must have either similar motivations or a similar understanding of what peace and violence looks like in war, understanding that, okay, quid pro quo, I will acknowledge and honor this part of the agreement and the contract if you honor and acknowledge your part of the agreement and contract. So that's a very anthropomorphic thing, right? That's a very human thing, because right now on this planet alone, we tend to be the only real life form that has any type of written contracts to codify an agreement. Now, do we see in nature where animals coordinate and cooperate? Absolutely. And you have symbiotic relationships all the time. Not every relationship is always parasitic. And there is some sort of understanding. It's not a written contract per se, but there is some understanding between the two life forms that, okay, we're going to work together and cooperate. And then, you'll get what you need, I'll get what I need. Like the little feeder fish that are at the bottom of in the coral reefs, when the big sharks come that could easily consume them, and probably they're very hungry, they open their mouth and the larger fish and allow the smaller fish to clean them up without biting them. There's this understanding, there's this truce where the little fish will benefit because they get to eat all the little microbes and algae and plankton that may be on the shark or the teeth of the shark, and at the same time the shark gets a good cleaning. So it's both their best interests to cooperate and work with each other. So there are examples in nature where there are these agreements, but then again, it's not codified, right? It's not written down in any type of record.
Big fish eats little fish, potentially, which gets us back to the one thing that you've said in the past. And let's try and codify this one. Are we a zoo? Are we a farm? Or are we a nature preserve for the non-human intelligence?
Yeah, great point. Well, I hate to say this, but if there's ever intelligent life out there trying to find intelligent life on this planet, they probably should go to the next planet, because I'm not overly impressed with our own species as of late. But with that said, there's arguments for all three. There's arguments to say, well, we could be a zoo, we could be a nature preserve, it could be the wild Serengeti. We are definitely a unique species. We're the only species that's been able to travel outside the physical bounds of our Earth, right? We are beginning to really look into the secrets of the cosmos. And I've argued, we have evolved more as a species in the last 120 years than we have in the last 120,000 years. So if you look at that exponential arc, chances are we're going to be in the cosmos real soon. Now, maybe not, my lifetime or a few generations, but in the grand scale of things, in a blink of an eye, we are going to be living amongst the stars. That is almost fait accompli. Unless we destroy ourselves in the process, that is where mankind and society is leaning towards. Terraforming new planets, extending our life so we can achieve interstellar travel. These are all things that probably in the next 500 years, 1,000 years will be a reality. So that's right around the corner. And if I was an intelligent species from, the cosmic neighborhood, and I saw these clever little monkeys getting to the point where now they're going to be my neighbors, right? Would you be interested in that? I tell you, every time I buy a house, I do a neighborhood check, right? I want to make sure there are any criminals or violent offenders in the neighborhood before I buy the house. This would kind of be the same thing, right? These our friends from out of town could be looking at us and saying, those clever little monkeys sure can be violent sometimes. Maybe we should keep an eye on them.
Absolutely. Mike, did you have a question for Lou?
Well, no, I agree with what Lou just said, that monkeys are known to be very disruptive, and they like to throw poo a lot. So anyone who's been a parent and raised kids knows full well what that entails. If I was the NHI, I sure as hell wouldn't want to be interacting with us either, brother. You're right.
Now, on the flip side is, with UAP, some of them tend to be very brazen. They don't really care that we're seeing them. Is that a form of communication? I've often used the example that when a former Soviet or now Russian reconnaissance aircraft enters our airspace, what do? Well, we launch 2 F-22 Raptors and we escort it out of our airspace. Now, are we really making communication, talking, or verbal communication? No. But are we communicating intent? Yes. Meaning if you don't leave, we're going to blow you out of the sky. So communication doesn't have to be verbal. And when you see some of these UAP seemingly not really caring that they're being seen, maybe that's an attempt to communicate, at least maybe capabilities, saying, hey, look what I can do and you can't, and maybe we should be friends, or, maybe you should be afraid of me, or maybe nothing to be afraid of because I haven't done anything yet, right? So that's the hard part, to understand really what I suspect some form of communication. Now, of course, my words are going to get twisted and you're going to see headlines tomorrow. Lou said we're talking to aliens. That's not what I'm saying. Okay. But trust me, someone's going to put it out there. You'll see. What I simply mean is that, the first time you communicate, I'm an avid scuba diver and my wife is too, and we'll go down any opportunity and go scuba diving. We love it. And we've been doing it since kids. And so when you go down into the ocean, you realize you are now in a different environment, and you're reminded very quickly you're no longer the apex predator. You're no longer at the top of the food chain. You've instantly ratcheted down about somewhere halfway in the food chain. You're not quite plankton, but you're not a great white shark either. And when you see a dolphin come by, something strange happens. There's a form of communication. I remember once a true story. Wow, I can't believe you just made me remember this. Let me share a little story with you guys. So I was scuba diving with a buddy of mine when I was at University of Miami. A lot of times we would spearfish because, starving college students. So I'll just go out and get my food. So I remember hearing some clicking sounds underwater, and my scuba buddy got all excited, like, oh, I think I hear some the porpoises. So I popped to the top of the surface, and we can see some black fins on the horizon, and they're doing this, right? They're not doing this. So you're talking about a sea mammal, right? The problem is you can't see how big something is when you're in the water. It's just kind of on the horizon. So we're like, yeah, let's go in the water and, foolishly swim in that direction, and maybe we'll bump into these, flipper. So we start swimming down there, and we get down about 40 feet, and we start swimming towards where the sounds are coming. And all of a sudden, we hear the clicking sounds again. And so we get kind of excited, like, oh my gosh, we're actually getting near these dolphins. Probably they're, they know we're coming way before we see them, so they're probably going to be scared and swim away. And then all of a sudden, something very strange happened. my body started to vibrate inside, and I suspect his did too. And I felt like my body was a tuning fork. It was resonating underwater along with my metal tank and my regulator. And what was happening is that they were echolocating these animals. And all of a sudden, out of the inky blackness comes, I know it wasn't this big, but it seemed the size of a school bus. This head just pop out of the blackness, and then another one and another one. And these were not dolphins. They were pilot whales. So they're bigger, a lot bigger than dolphins. Now, they're not, orcas and killer whales, and, they eat small marine life, not scuba divers. But let me tell you something for a second there. It was shocking, because all of a sudden the reality of I've got 5, 6, 7, 8,000 pounds worth of sea animal in front of me, and that's just one of the three that are looking at me. And Thomas, I swear to God, the one in the middle, he's just sitting there. It looks like a spaceship floating in outer space, looking at me. Does a complete 360, just goes boop, and goes all the way without moving a fin or anything, and then looking right back at me, as is to say, look what I can do underwater and you can't, right? Like you are so outgunned. It's pathetic. And I looked to my buddy, and his regulator's at free flow. It's just blowing, because he's both excited,
hyperventilating,
and scared. Yeah, he's hyperventilating, and I think I was too, right? And then all of a sudden, with one little swift kick, these massive things underwater go right past us, and we popped to the top of the surface, and we both agreed right there then that we would never go chasing marine life again like that. But my point to all this is, were they communicating? Well, yeah, they were communicating. They were communicating in a language I didn't understand. They were echolocating, and then they decided to come see us, because they could have swam anywhere they wanted to. But our course, they had to deliberately change their course to come, because we never would have caught them otherwise. So they were curious. They were communicating with each other. And I believe that when that thing did that 360 roll right in front of me, he or she was communicating with me, saying, you don't speak my language, but you don't swim well as I do. So watch this. So is that what we mean by communication? Is it possible that when we talk about NHI, we're talking about, I know this is a long-winded way to have the conversation, but I want to drive the point home that communication means different things to different people, right? Right. I can stand in the back of a room and go like this, and I'm still communicating with you. I'm saying hi. I'm just not using my mouth to do it. And I'm not writing a letter, right? So back to the Grush statement and Nell's statement that there's an agreement. Is it a written agreement? Is it a verbal agreement? Is it just an agreement? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Is it a quid pro quo? What type of agreement is it? I did not see any type of documentation when I was at ATIP or at the Pentagon that I was privy to. But again, that does not mean at all that that's not the case. There are legacy efforts that will hopefully come to light here soon, where some of those people who are still alive, they might have a different story to tell you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Another question that popped up here from Mike Morris. I had a couple questions from him. One of the things he wanted to know, we have a lot of nuts and bolts that have come forward with regards to what we're trying to pass in legislation coming from the UAP ADA that didn't make it twice, and hopefully they'll split it into smaller chunks and try and get that over the finish line. Do you think we'll ever get any kind of legislation to deal with the abductee issue? Because I know that's something that's a little bit more woo and something out there.
Well, yeah, but not necessarily in a direct way. When you talk about biological effects, which we have seen in some of the draft legislation, that's really close to that line, brother.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the problem is, if you say abduction, now you are acknowledging that American citizens may be taken away against their own free will.
Right.
That's crime. That's criminal, buddy. That's called kidnapping, right? And if they touch you, what's that? That's called assault. So we can start racking up the federal charges if you want to. It's probably better to do the crawl, walk, run method, and start with the lower hanging fruit. That's going to be a little less controversial, something that the politicians would be more apt, have a better appetite, I think, to pass, and then see where that leads, and then it ratchets up and more and more and more and more, and eventually becomes patient advocacy. It's not really abductee, because that word is kind of like the old UFO word. There's a lot of stigma associated with it. But, you know, if you have an experiencer or somebody who's come up close and personal and has sustained any type of medical consequence, you know, then you could foreseeably have some sort of legislation for individuals who've, you know, suffered some sort of medical consequence or biological effect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very interesting situation. Mike, did you have a question tonight?
Actually, there was a question in the audience coming in to Lou that wanted to ask from Syrup, who comes in the back chat with us frequently. The 23-minute video that you spoke publicly about, he wanted to know, is it of the Tic Tac?
No. Nope, it is not. It was taken off of an ISR platform, a very capable platform in an area that we probably don't want to talk about us being in. And that's why the video is so very sensitive. And it is a... I don't know if I can talk about that.
I can talk about it. I'll save you the trouble.
Okay.
It was one of our Reaper drones in an area from a foreign adversary. And the object that it had shown on video, very clear video, as you said publicly before, you would have no doubt if a civilian or anybody looked at this video as to what you were looking at. It was clearly an object that was not man-made. What was even more interesting about this 23-minute video is the fact that this object tended to have, from a distance on the horizon, closed almost instantaneously on the drone and then shot back off again. So it was almost like it was playing tag and wanted to be seen, which is unusual at best.
But
I can't elaborate more than that. But Mike, you're obviously a very good source. Again, officially, I can't confirm or deny, but what I can say is that, you know, you're certainly on the right track. And it is very, very compelling. There are reasons why, you know, you have to scrub videos because, especially now, because there's a lot of clever people out there.
Sources, yeah.
Right. Sources and methods, and the metadata can be stripped from video and as well. And so, you know, we have to be careful with that. And I understand that, but I do think there's a way that you can probably sanitize a video and isolate the object so at least people can see that. Yeah. And I'm hopeful that will happen. You know, now that we know the Pentagon didn't really delete all my files, even though they said they did. Right. Thanks to John Greenwald and some of his tenacity in getting some documentation released, they finally fessed up. And so, you know, that if they have that one document that they admitted to, they have all the others. Yeah. But they do. They also have all the videos too, and all the pictures and everything. And, you know, I made sure that it wasn't just in one specific location in the Pentagon because of this exact reason. So I made sure that there was a couple backup copies, maybe on someone else's drive, you know, shared drive.
But this incident, although we don't have any footage of it, sounds very familiar. I mean, very similar to what the pilots on Oregon who were flying towards Seattle, my hometown.
Yeah, ATC, right. By the way, before we go to that, let me just caveat when I say they're on another drive, the classified system. You know, no one brought classified information home or documents home with them. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that there were people in the Pentagon who had a very similar system that I did, that it was cleared to the same level. And I made sure that copies of certain bits and pieces of information were stored on those classified servers, so the government could later on retrieve those if they needed to, in case there was an accident and my drives wound up being accidentally deleted.
Yeah, excellent. So to get back to that really quick, what we're talking about with this 23-minute video, as we've been having the issues going on with the drones, I've been pointing out to our viewers saying, hey, look at what we've got going over here. This looks like, you know, military class craft that we're seeing in the sky over the East Coast, at least for these drones are going back and forth. But if you look at the incident that happened in Oregon from the pilots who were flying from Oregon up to Seattle-Tacoma International Airport, they had, what did they described it as red lights in the sky that were shooting to the ocean and back in front of them, towards them and back. at speeds beyond explanation and instantly going from 30,000 feet up to 50,000 feet.
Yeah, yeah, and you won't hear the White House talk about that, will you?
No.
Even though this is on an official FAA U.S. government communication system using some
Call them UFOs.
That's right. That's right. But let's not forget, Thomas, that's an inconvenient conversation to have with the White House. So we're just going to chalk them all up to drones because some of them have red and green blinky lights. So nothing to worry about it, nothing to fear. I'm sure it was some sort of atmospheric aberration that all these people were seeing and the radars as well.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. As we get towards the end here, I just want to congratulate you on your book, Eminent, being a New York Times bestseller, reaching #1. Hopefully the sales have been doing great for you and your family.
Thomas, that's only a result because of you guys. Let's face it. There was an appetite for this information.
Yeah.
It's really, I think, indicative of the demand that people have for the truth and transparency. I did not make that book #1. You all did. And so to a very large part, and that's why I dedicated the book to you and everybody else, everybody that's been in this fight and the UAP topic and UAP Twitter even, because before it became X, because of what you all have achieved. You all have changed the course of this country. You have demanded laws. You have demanded information. And yes, I know it's frustrating when people in the administration don't get it. But listen, folks, I think the cavalry's coming. We've had bigger challenges than this over the last 7 years, and collectively, together, we've all prevailed. We are only here in this part of the conversation because every single one of you that have had the conversation around the water cooler, around the dinner table, any one of you that have went up to somebody and said, "Hey, what do you think about UFOs?" Right? Or have called your member of Congress, guy or gal, and said, "Hey, listen, we want this to be passed," or demanded that news, put a positive comment on some of these news stations that decide to be brave and broadcast UFO related reporting. Because when they look at the comments and they get a bunch of people, poo-pooing them, they're not going to want to cover it again. So it's because of your audience and people like you saying, "No, this is good. We want more reporting like this." That's really encouraging and emboldening the media to do this. And same with foreign countries. Yeah. You guys have really created. I hate to say this because I never thought this would have been the case, but I mean, don't look now, but I think you guys may have created a movement.
Yeah, Mike, take it for a second. Go ahead, Lou.
I got it. Go ahead, Lou.
Yeah, I think
a social movement.
Yeah, I think you guys have a social movement that is bipartisan or nonpartisan, and that it just wants the truth. And that's your doing. That's not my doing. I just came out in 2017 and said what I knew, and took some arrows. But we're only here because of you guys, the masses, the people, the vox populi, the voice of the people have spoken. And they're not willing to be deterred. They're not willing to be snowed or lied to. And you see it right now. The reason why we're having this conversation is because most Americans do not believe the White House when they say nothing to fear here with these drones, even though we don't know what they are. And all these are legal operated law enforcement helicopters, civilian airplanes, and drones. That's not true. That's not the case. And we know that. And I think this is proof positive, because people are still interested in this topic and are demanding the truth, that we're wiser than that. And that's because of you all, not me.
Well, to be honest with you, brother, you brought this conversation out to the mainstream public. When you came out in 2017 with that New York Times article and the videos that came out to the public, it gave a surge of the mainstream public to be interested in this topic without the fear of stigma that they had to contend with for all the decades prior to that, from the time of Roswell moving forward. It was the work that you did. It's why people look up to you and respect you for what you do. Without that, we wouldn't be having this conversation here today. Well, and as far as the show that Thomas and I do, we, like you, cut through all the bullshit that is out there on any other on most other platforms and mainstream media, and we tell the audience the truth, the transparency of what we know to be true, and anything that we feel is not, we will point out and call it out for what it is, just like you've been doing the whole time, Lou.
Well,
So,
I appreciate that, guys. But again, all ships rise with the tide, and this is indicative that everybody's winning. This is, I think, it's a just cause. Mike, with your background in law enforcement, I don't need to tell you, service is what we do. And when you
right.
make an oath to your society, that never ends.
And the Constitution. Right.
That's right, and the Constitution. So when I left the government, I just consider myself still fulfilling the same mission they gave me back in 2009. That's never changed. I'm still doing it. I'm just doing it wearing a different hat, than I was before. And again, the large part of our success is really due to people like you all, you and your audience. That's a fact. There's no getting around it.
Oh, listen, without the audience, we wouldn't be having this conversation. It's about them and the truth. They want it as badly as we do, but we do what we can, our share behind the scenes, to fight to bring that truth out to everybody, because they have a right to know.
I agree.
And that's why we do what we do and make the sacrifices that we do, as you have the entire time, so that the public can have conversations like this and be able to understand that the objects that they see overhead and outside, like with these drones, elected officials, mayors of towns, governors of states, they can see these objects over their homes. So this is something that can be talked about. And before you came out in 2017, if they attempted to say something like that, people would either want to put a tinfoil hat over their head or have the nut job come, the straitjackets.
Yeah.
So now we could talk publicly about this, and it has a lot to do with the work that you did.
I still look over my shoulder, Mike, quite a bit, to be honest with you. There's still a lot I can't talk about. But yes, we're definitely having a much more open conversation now. And I think that the system, our government, is, as even though they don't want to have the conversation, I think they realize that they have to, and they are not going to the extreme measures that they once were going to try to keep people like me and Dave quiet. I think they realize it's a losing battle. That's not to say that something bad might not happen to me, God forbid. I've had a lot of bad things happen to me over the last 7 years trying to have this conversation, because I have pissed a lot of people off. That's a fact. But with that said, I don't see it as bad. And maybe I'm just, it's naivety on my part, but I don't see quite the reaction that I had even just 2 years ago in this topic. It was terrible. And it doesn't seem to be, again, well, I'm still here having a conversation, aren't I? So it wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't. It was successful, and it still is. And I have a feeling when we get into 2025, which again was the topic of the show tonight, I think with the new administration coming in, we're going to see changes we only dreamed about for decades, potentially.
Oh, I think this is going to be a hell of a banner year. And so far, my predictions have been right. Every time I said, hey, this is going to be a new year, there's going to be new information and new stuff, it happens, right? There's hearings and there's new laws and legislation, and there's more conversations between the Pentagon and new organizations. And so this is going to be a really exciting year for folks. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. With that said, gentlemen, please forgive me, but I have a very tight schedule.
One last question for you really quick. This is about your speaking tour. You're out on tour. You've had a bunch of great opportunities to go ahead and meet with your fans and people who want to learn about disclosure. Are you going to be
They're not my fans, brother. They're my colleagues, man. Every one of you.
There we go.
We're working all together. I take the show on the road because this is part of our public engagement platform. I've mentioned this for the last 5 years. I've told everybody what our strategy is moving forward. And public engagement is bar none some of the most important. In 2025, I'm going to be shifting to a lot of international engagement as well. But that show on the road that I'm doing, that's just my way to engage with people, find out what's important to them, what do they want to know, what do they want from their government, and at the same time provide to the best of my ability what I know based upon my experience and involvement.
Yeah. Any hopes for speaking engagements on the West Coast or in the Pacific Northwest, like Seattle?
Absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, there's some dates we're looking at now. I'm trying to hit as many as I can. because afterwards I do kind of this engagement thing.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be for book signing, but I tell people you don't have to have a book, just show up, and we can talk. And if you want to take pictures and ask questions, and it's been very, very successful. We've had a really incredible turnout, really, really good people. You wouldn't believe the entire spectrum of individuals that show up, and it's been fantastic. It really has been a positive experience for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very
That's
much.
excellent.
Thank you very much.
And one
Mike.
2025 is going to be a banner year. I agree. And when it is, and we're going to get these breakthroughs, would you kindly consider jumping on like you did before with Thomas and me, and we could discuss it on
I'll
the
do
show?
it more often now that I've got some of these distractions, we'll call them. Most of them have been addressed. I'll be much more free and available to engage the public in a manner that I've been wanting to do. There have been some very specific reasons why I could not over the last year and a half. But I think most of those have been resolved by now. So my intent is to become increasingly more vocal and increasingly more present on this topic.
Excellent.
We appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to it. Right, Thomas?
Oh, absolutely. I want to thank you personally, Lou, for taking this time tonight to go ahead and come out with us. I know you're going to be here initially a little bit longer today, but wow, 7 interviews before this one today. You must be
I got
tired.
them in the morning, brother. I got them in. It's not just interviews. I'm actually doing, conversations with folks and trying to strategize how do we roll out the next phase of disclosure and do it in a way that is meaningful for folks, and it's not just a bunch of wasted time.
Yeah.
So that's what a lot of my time is involved in.
Well, I hope to see you as part of the upcoming administration. Maybe that'd be wonderful.
Like I said, I'm not overly political, but if my country asks me to serve, of course, I'll continue to serve in any capacity they ask me to. But I'll tell you what, hypothetically, if that was the case, be careful what you wish for, because, I would be the kind of guy that would tell you just about everything I legally could possibly tell you, and have regular updates with the American public, regular updates with Congress. I'd have a direct line where anybody could call to the office and, speak your mind, and I'll do town halls, and it'll be, maybe that's not what this administration wants.
Oh, that's what we need about the UFO topic. We do need the town halls. We do need the regular stuff going on. We do need the information, and fingers crossed that happens. So that would be absolutely wonderful.
Well, thank you again, Thomas and Mike, and thank you for being part of this incredible team, and thank you for what you're doing. And I got to ask, what's the name of your cute husky back there?
This is Mocha.
Mocha, what a cool name. She looks too. She knows her name.
Yes, she does.
Well, I've got 6 of those little fur babies, and they're an incredible joy. So I'm glad. I don't trust people who don't like animals. I got a problem with people who don't like dogs or cats. I'm like, there's just something not quite right.
No, you're right. But you know what it is? We're family people.
Yeah.
You, me, and Thomas, and we have animals, we have pets, we have children. We know, what matters and what's important.
It's family, right?
Don't.
It's
family, of course.
Family and friends, man. Everything else is kind of irrelevant. Family and friends, and that's where our priority should be. So
Thomas and I are with you 100% on that, brother.
So
all right, we're gonna keep in touch behind the scenes as well, as always.
Absolutely. Just look, if for any reason you send me a quick note on Signal or something and I don't respond, get a hold of my boss. Jennifer is always.
I used to get in trouble saying she was your boss, but she is your boss.
No, she is. I've got a bunch of names for her. One of them is I call her the Hammer.
Yeah.
Another one is when I don't know if I should say this, but I'm going to say it. Jen can be very direct with me sometimes, and I'm emotional. I'm Latino, so I take things very personally. So I have a pet name for her sometimes because she is very draconian when it comes to my schedule, and so I call her Jen Jung Un sometimes because she. Let me tell you, she can be a dictator sometimes. And she doesn't like it very much, but now and another 3,000 people.
Well, behind every good intelligence man, there's a better handler. So,
absolutely. After 30 years, boy, do I know my place.
Well, listen, I hope she knows that Thomas and I love Jennifer as well.
Oh,
just as much.
No,
So
she does. She does. She, poor thing. She's got a more on her plate even than I do. So she's an incredible human being, incredible partner, incredible woman, incredible friend.
she
You know,
is.
it's just I'm truly a blessed man.
Absolutely.
You are.
Before you run out of blessings, we better let you go before you get in trouble, Lou.
All right, you got it, gentlemen. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening. And wonderful hello, big shout out to your wonderful audience, each and every one of you. Thank you for being with us here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks
Lou. Have a
again,
great
brother.
evening.
We appreciate it.
Bye, guys. God bless.
Bye-bye. Wow. Great conversation, Mike. I thought I'd run out of questions, but I didn't.
No, not at all. There's always something to talk about with Lou. He's a fountain of information.
Oh,
We
yeah.
only scratched the surface. Are you kidding me? We could have spent 3 hours talking to him about all the various things. I wanted to bring up
1 hour.
Yeah, I know. There was a lot of things. The F-22 that was punched, it was surrounded by objects at the Immaculate Constellation report that was submitted to Congress by Michael Schellenberger. I wanted to ask Lou what his opinion of that was when we were talking about messages. Is that a message? We were just scratching the surface because he had a very limited amount of time at the end of his day to be here with us.
Oh, yeah. There goes the doorbell, Mike, as I posted our link for people to come in. Corporal Abe, your thoughts on the interview, my friend? You just muted. You were muted. You there, Abe?
It was a great interview.
It was fun.
I'm happy. I thank Lou for his service. I'm happy I was in the same space as Lou. You know, I'm really shocked. I can't wait for him to come back to the show. I thought he dropped
we'll have him back.
I can't wait. I thought he dropped a couple of little hints for us. I'm just excited. I'm really pumped now. Lou motivated me, and I wanted to tell him happy holidays. I feel like you guys will do that for me. But yeah.
Susan Ford, go ahead.
You know, that's the first time I've ever seen Lou in an interview where he looks so relaxed and so just easygoing, not tense. There's no tension on him.
You know why? Because Thomas and I are good friends with Lou and his wife, Jennifer. It's not tension. And when he comes on here, it's like going out and having a beer with a friend. And that's what it's all about. That's why we have the show like this. We want people to feel comfortable and be able to let their guard down. Right, Thomas?
Yeah, absolutely. Really quick, for those who have been watching the show, if you haven't subscribed yet, do us a favor, give us a subscribe. We'd love to have these regular. And if you haven't given us a thumbs yet, we still have 2,700 people or so watching the show right now. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down. We'll take one or the other. And give us comments below in the below the video. I've been reading them lately. There's been a lot of great feedback from the audience, Mike. They've been loving what we've been doing here.
It was a great interview anyway, you guys. Really good. He was really relaxed. No tension. He was just flowing with it. Yeah, it was a great interview. I really enjoyed it.
People are asking, did the network stop covering drones today? And no, they didn't. And if anyone who's been out there watching, Lue Elizondo has actually been on several interviews today. I believe on News Nation and Newsmax. And I think he may have also been on our friends over at Fox. So, yeah, he's been around today. It seems this whole drone situation is, got everybody up in arms, including the media, and they're all bringing Lou on to talk about it. It's great to see that.
He's a subject matter expert. That's why.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, what a day. Getting ready for this, getting it all together. It's just been a great opportunity to go ahead and hang out with friends. I'm just going ahead and see what I can find right now. Yeah, there's been some posting, some different stuff about drones out there. I haven't been on it that much otherwise than knowing, Washington, D.C., the cover-up is still going on, and a lot of people in D.C. are pushing back against what I will call it the lies and misinformation and disinformation coming from the executive branch of the government at this point in time. Mocha, quiet down now. One of those days, and I'll see if I can get one up here from our friends over at News Nation. Let me see if I can get one of my browser windows up to go ahead and bring this up. Mike, take the mic for a second while I'm looking for this. Mike? Did we lose Mike? I lose every. No, Mike, you're muted. No, I guess apparently.
I'm sorry. No, I'm right here. What was the question?
No, I was going to say I'm going to go ahead and get a video up here for the audience talking about the latest stuff on the drones. There has been some stuff going on today. A lot of it's been Lue Elizondo going out and talking to the media.
Exactly. So yeah, we can update them, and a video would definitely come in handy.
Oh,
so good idea for the audience. Yep.
Go
because
ahead.
We still have a ways to go.
Oh, I know. Let me find this really quick and get to X. Let me get to out of here. Just give me a second, folks. I'm just doing this live on the fly right now. Go to our friend, UAP James. He always has a lot of great videos up there. Now, where did it go? Oh, here we go. Let's go to UAP James' Twitter feed. Let's see what I can bring up here. And what we can go ahead and play right from the browser. All right. Coming. Is that the last one he had? All right. So let's get this first one up here. This evening we had on News Nation, we have Michael Schellenberger going ahead. Let me see if I can.
They had these.
Talking about the drone situation and the misinformation coming out of the federal government for that matter. Let's see if I can get this to Brave. All right, so Schellenberger, government forced to lie about drones. They won't admit control over their airspace. Mayorkas and Kirby don't want to have any conversation about drones incursions. It's obviously a sensitive issue, more like a cover-up, I'd have to say. Let's just get this short clip up here. Here we go, folks. Let me find... Oh, video solo. Let me get it up here. Everything's set for No, don't go there. No, not that one. Where did it go? Here we go. Let's go ahead and play this clip. Get it up here. All right, folks. First quick video clip for this evening. Here we go.
I think there's sort of two problems, which is one, they don't want to admit that they don't control the airspace. And so that's why they had these strenuous denials, which was weird last week. I mean, I was struck by it. Here we are on Thursday, Friday last week. Mayorkas and Kirby are both saying that there's no evidence of any drone incursions over U.S. military bases. I mean, it's been in the news for months. Yeah. So you have to kind of go, why, if you don't have to lie in politics, you shouldn't, you wouldn't. It makes your life more difficult. So they don't want to lie. Why are they lying? Well, clearly because they don't want to have any conversation about the drone incursions. It's obviously a sensitive issue, as it should be, because this is the first thing you learn. I mean, from high school history, after World War II, the United States had air dominance. And I mean, Chris, I don't need to tell you, I mean, we have so many geospatial entities in the United States, NORAD, NASA, Air Force, constantly looking at every aspect of the airspace from the ground all the way to, to the moon. I mean, it's really huge amounts of visual data. To say that we don't know what's going on with these drones raises a bunch of very awkward and uncomfortable questions that they clearly don't want to talk about.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that completely. It's just a situation they're going and talking about this time, and where it's clearly it's a cover-up. It's what Tim Burchett calls it out as. Mocha, quiet down now, girl. I know Lou's gone, but here's your cookie. Now be good. Now lay down, otherwise I'll lock you out. Mike, your thoughts on this video? Sorry.
It's an interesting video. I'm still thinking about the conversation we had with Lou. They made a lot of good points and brought up some interesting things. Did you play the? No, we didn't. We should play the video of the president talking about this today, making those comments.
Oh, the one from last night. Let me get to that in a second. I don't have that one here. I can find it in a second. We actually played that at the end of the show last night, Mike.
We should play it again for our audience today. I think
all right, we'll get that
valuable.
In 1 second. I've got another video getting ready to come up that I can go ahead and find it. We've got Representative Nancy Mace saying that drones that we're dealing with, and she's calling it out, and she's saying they could be aliens. Let's see what she, she's saying the A word. Let somebody say it. Let's go ahead and play this clip. Here we go, folks. This is a short 39-second clip.
My concern is if it's not craft from outer space, because I think that has to be on the table. That has to be an option. Is it our technology, or is it Russia or Iran or China? Is there someone who's winning the arms race, and are we behind? Because my question is about national security. And I hope that it's us. I hope that it's not our adversaries or something from outside the universe, because I have real concerns that, like, if these drones are from Iran or China, like some of the rumors have been, I pray that they're ours, but we should also know why they're out there. Like, are they looking for radiation? Are they looking for a missing nuclear warhead? Like, we deserve to have some answers here because people are scared. My concern is if it's in.
Well, there you go, Mike. Even Nancy Mace is bringing up the possibility of what we're looking at here with the drone situation. It's what Lou brought up, looking about it, a potential WMD. It's what we've brought up. Now she's bringing up that potentially these could be our craft out there looking for a WMD. That's why our government is saying, oh, there's no threat to the public. All these craft that you're seeing, they're all legally there, which means the government would know they're there, right, Mike?
That's true. And as the president-elect had stated publicly, of course the government knows where they're coming from, where they're going. How could they not? And they should tell the American people, which they're not doing.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. And, that's why we're covering this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Getting up to the next clip here. Well, believe it or not, we've got a little clip here of Lue Elizondo talking on not Banfield, talking on News Nation. From an interview he had earlier this morning, he gets into this drone situation a little bit differently, a little bit more deeper than he'd had on our show earlier today. So let me go ahead and bring this one up here for us. Let me see if I can make it a little larger. There we go. Let me go ahead and get this one going, and I will kick it into gear. Here we go, folks. This is Lue Elizondo talking a little bit more depth about the drone situation and possibilities of what we're dealing with. Here we go, folks.
President Biden and his administration say whatever it is that people are seeing up in the skies, it poses no threat. How do they know?
Well, we don't, and that's just the bottom line, Elizabeth. It's the excuse from my perspective is inexcusable. Bottom line is that they've admitted that these things are real, that they're flying around. We don't know where they're from. We don't know where they're going. We don't know who's behind it. We don't think it's foreign adversarial, and it's not ours. And yet, for someone to turn around and say it's not a threat, let me remind your audience, if I may, it was almost 2 decades ago that we actually foiled a plot, the FBI and the intelligence community, of some terrorists that were going to fly remote-controlled airplanes. This is the pre-drones. These were the drones of 2 decades ago, loaded with explosives and fly them into the White House. And so that was something that was recognized as a vulnerability, a threat, more than 20 years ago. And here we are today, after 20 years, still dealing with the same problem. The bottom line is that the federal government is not being honest with the American people, chalking all these drones up as legally operated vehicles and aircraft and law enforcement. If that's the case, they would not be shutting down military installations because of drone incursions. It just simply does not make sense.
Yeah, you've been really critical about how the government has handled this whole thing. You tweeted that, quote, "Since I left the Pentagon in 2017, I have been stating the fact that our airspace has been unsecured for years with no one at the department taking it seriously." You go on to say, "I am glad that certain elements within our government are now seeing for themselves the real issue of ignoring existential threats to our airspace. We've ignored it for too long." Why have we ignored this? And, we're just seeing today a bill on the floor of the Senate to try and give one single agency oversight of everything was blocked by a single senator.
Yeah, Elizabeth, great question. The reality is that governments, not just governments, religions and institutions, they are solution oriented. And when you have a problem for which there is no apparent solution or immediate solution, there's this tendency to pass the buck or minimize the issue until once you have a solution. And I think that's what we're seeing here. I think we're seeing an administration that's desperate for answers. It's on its very last few weeks. And I suspect that they are passing the buck to the new administration to put some energy behind this and solve the problem. The bottom line is we don't know what's...
Really quick, I want to pass this on here. The drone bill was blocked in the Senate. This is good because the drone bill that they were talking about that's on the ticker right now, this one would have gone ahead and taken away a lot of rights from average citizens. So there was a lot of worry about this legislation going through. Thank God it isn't going to happen. Let me just continue. Sorry about that.
In our skies. The moment we started calibrating our radar systems a year and a half ago to look for UAP, what did we see? We saw Chinese spy balloons wafting over and challenged over the northern continental United States. So anytime somebody in government tells you, trust me, I'm from the government, we got this, I would probably... Right. You need to start asking some hard questions. That's fine.
Hold on, 2 minutes and 55 in. I actually have a better quality of this video. let me go ahead and bring this one up and use and play that instead, because I got the one from Twitter here. That one's a bit mussed up a little bit. Let me go ahead and play this one instead. I got this actually off of CDN for Newsnet what do you call it? News Nation.
And institutions, they are solution oriented. And when you have a problem for which there is no apparent solution or immediate solution, there's this tendency to pass the buck or minimize the issue until once you have a solution. And I think that's what we're seeing here. I think we're seeing an administration that's desperate for answers. It's on its very last few weeks. And I suspect that they are passing the buck to the new administration to put some energy behind this and solve the problem. The bottom line is we don't know what's in our skies. The moment we started calibrating our radar systems a year and a half ago to look for UAP, what did we see? We saw Chinese spy balloons wafting over unchallenged over the northern continental United States. So anytime somebody in government tells you, trust me, I'm from the government, we got this, I would probably... Right. You need to start asking some hard questions. That's fine. I'll believe you. But as Reagan said, trust but verify. They've got to be more open. Why are they having these conversations with Congress and not the American people?
Why is the briefing classified? If everything's fine and there's nothing to see there, why do you need a classified briefing?
Correct. Unless you're going to be hiding the sources and means and methods of your collection. But most of these databases are completely unclassified databases. If they are tracking all of these drones and helicopters and airplanes with transponders and other technology like radar that's available to anybody who's got the app on their phone, then why is it a classified briefing? The answer is that there is no real good answer. And I still think the administration needs to be more transparent with the American public.
Lou, what is it you think is happening right now? What is it people are seeing?
Well, it could be a whole host of things. The problem is that some people are reporting things that don't sound like drones. They're the size of an SUV, possibly the size of a school bus. In some cases, they report coming out of the water and moving away very, very quickly, and in some cases even disappearing. That's not a drone. Now, the whirring sounds and the quadcopters and whatnot, and maybe the navigation lights, sure. So the bottom line is we really don't know what's going on yet. And this is, I think, my frustration, as with many other people, when the administration for a month says we have no idea what this is. And then all of a sudden,
they have been saying, I don't have any idea. They've been saying it's just mostly drones and fixed wing aircraft and no indication there's anything nefarious.
That's only the last 24 hours. Before, they were saying that we have no idea what these are. We don't think that they are that they have anything to do with a foreign adversary. We're pretty sure they're not ours. But they never said that these were all being chalked up to legal aircraft until about 24 to 48 hours ago. That changed.
John Kirby and the Pentagon spokesman were saying last week that these were drones and fixed wing aircraft. Listen, as well as I do. Human beings are not reliable witnesses. Just ask any criminal lawyer. Eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable. It's hard to judge distance in the sky. It's hard to see clearly in the dark. And how do we know that there isn't a contagion of social panic right now about what people are seeing?
Well, that's always sure. There's always the risk when you have a sensitization on a topic to a population. They're going to start seeing more because they're going to start looking up in the sky more. And when they look in the sky more, they're going to see more and they're going to report more. And so that's normal. But what is not normal is the response by the government, in some cases, shutting down airspace because of these drone incursions. That's not hysteria. That's fact.
Right.
And so when you have facts like that, then you have to start asking the harder questions. What is causing these drones? And by the way, some of these, if they are sophisticated enough and they are the size of an SUV, the only people that can pull that off are state organizations. China, Russia, the United States.
Yeah.
You need a huge infrastructure to deploy the things, to recover them, to maintain them, to repower them and recharge them. And then you've got a communication issue, which is line of sight. Most drones, hobbyist drones, are limited by the curvature of the earth, line of sight. If these things are traveling, in some cases, they're loitering for 5 to 10 hours, has been reported, and potentially can traverse tens, if not hundreds of miles. You need a huge infrastructure and architecture to manage that, especially if you have more than one drone in the sky doing that. You need aircraft in the sky, or at a minimum satellites. You need personnel, you need resources. So there's a lot of unknown answers here that need to be that I think need to be asked in a question to Congress and more importantly, to the White House.
Lue Elizondo, thank you for coming on and posing those.
Yeah, Lou has been making his rounds today, Mike? Now, one of the things you want...
he's been busy.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you wanted me to go ahead and bring out as well, bring up was the quote we had last night where Joe Biden actually went and finally addressed the drone situation. Granted, he was heading out for the Christmas break probably on a helicopter up back to Delaware. But let me go ahead and let's play this clip. And Mike, I know you wrote a tweet on this, so I'll let you, we'll play it, then I'll let you talk this one through for us. How about that?
Absolutely.
Here we
Thank
go.
you.
Drone over New Jersey. What's behind all of that? Nothing nefarious, apparently.
Okay, nothing nefarious, apparently.
But they're checking it all out. I think it's just one. There's a lot of drones authorized up there. I think one started and they all got it. Everybody wanted to get in the deal. But we're following it closely. So far, no sense of danger.
When you speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu about a ceasefire...
Okay, so no sense of danger. Did he just say there's one up there, Mike?
He said there was one drone out there, and all the others had just piled on, but not a mystery, and people are making a big deal about this. So either he's completely clueless and in the dark about what's been going on for the past month, or the people that run the show for him have been lying to him. Something. It doesn't make any sense why he would make a statement like that, does it?
It sounds like, Mike, the same kind of cover-up that's been seen from, what do you call it, that's been going on for the longest period of time. They don't want to give us any answers. They don't want to acknowledge anything. Their story is changing from day to day. The president's talking, but honestly, we're hearing more coming from President-elect Trump than we're getting out of Biden.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It seems like the incoming administration, like we talked about with Lou, is going to be moving forward with disclosure and providing information. This administration, for the 4 years that they've been in power, is telling us that the drones that are flying over everybody's homes, we're imagining it. It's not real and not a threat. And there's only one actual drone up in the sky. So, yeah, we're getting real amounts of bullshit. The sound effect that would explain his statement right now? Stand-up philosopher?
Oh, I've got that one here. I'm sure I can go ahead and play that.
Oh, a bullshit artist.
There you go, Mike.
There you go. That's the perfect way to end off that statement.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, but this is what we've been dealing with, and hopefully this is going to be over with soon, next couple of weeks, and this will be behind us once and for all.
Oh, gosh,
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, same here, my friend. We've been working hard on this for the longest time, and it's great to see, all of this come together, and hopefully we'll have some answers on what's been going on in this drone situation, because you know what? The American people have a right to know. They're tired of being treated like a mushroom, aka being kept in the dark and being fed nothing but bullshit.
Right. Plenty of fertilizer. There seems to be a lot coming out of the government.
Yeah.
But you know what the really good news is? We now have confirmed publicly that as these new developments come forward in 2025, and we're going to be covering it here, you and I, Lou is going to join us and discuss the new revelations as they become public. So that's going to be a nice way to start off the new year, I think.
Oh, gosh, yes, absolutely. Well, getting back to this situation as our friends in Washington, D.C. prepare to head out. Well, at least they thought they were going to head out for their vacation, but with the budget extension going
not
ahead
being
and failing,
passed,
thank God, Mike, they were going to spend $3 billion as part of our continuing resolution to fund the government. They snuck in $3 billion to build a new NFL stadium in Washington, D.C. How does that go along with funding our government? Talk about pork pies, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Pork barrel spending. They tried to slip one in. It's a good thing that they shut that down. It's ridiculous. Why do you think we are so far in debt with the budget? Because of stupidity like this. Also, I wanted to mention to Lou, and we'll have to address it next time he comes back. What is his thoughts about a subject that you and I have talked about many, many times here on the show? the budget for the Pentagon, and the fact that every audit they go through, they fail. $22 trillion so far is unaccounted for. That's a big chunk of the budget that we're in a hole for in this country.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing thing. Maybe with Elon trying to cut government spending, the DOD won't be able to get away with that shit anymore.
Oh, yeah. I hear you,
Hopefully.
my friend. I hear you. And I was going to bring up a next video here of Tim Burchett. But I actually have to bring up a video if it can download here really quick. Come on, let's get it here. All right. Coming to our friends from Sky News. Is this Sky Australia, I think? Where's it coming from? Sky News Australia.
Yeah.
Let's bring it on. They've actually got a better picture of Joe here. He looks a little bit more clueless. And this one is he's lost and he's clueless. Joe Biden blasted over response to strange drone sightings. So it's not just us calling him out, Mike. It's the media, especially from our friends in Australia. Let me go ahead and bring this one up. I think we'll enjoy it. Here we go. Here we go. Actually, I'll play this music.
All those drones over New Jersey. What's behind all of that?
Nothing nefarious, apparently. But they're checking it all out. I think it's just one. There's a lot of drones authorized up there. I think one started and they all got it. Everybody's wanting to get in the deal.
Is that all they're going to... Is this all it's going to be is a bunch of... Oh, never mind. Let me go. I thought this is a better one, Mike. On that note, I've got a different video I can bring up here showing... I thought it was actually going to be a video. I'm just downloading these blankly, friends, by title and going to play them. Here we have Representative Burchett. Government knows their drones' origin, refuses to capture them. Tim Burchett says China's involved. Another person calling out China. Let's go ahead and play this clip. Here we go, folks.
If you drop a penny on a baseball diamond that's outdoors, obviously, and it lands heads up, a satellite can probably tell you the date that's on that penny. So you're telling me that with all of our technology, we can't tell where these dadgum things are coming from or where they're going. That is wrong. And they're telling you we don't have the capabilities to knock them down. That is so far from the truth than anything. We have that technology and we are afraid. And right now we are so compromised, I feel, that this is just a test. And I feel like it's probably in New Jersey because they were one of the most compliant areas during COVID, if you remember. I mean, they shut the damn thing down. People in Tennessee are still ticked off about it. So there's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of different folks that are involved with it. I feel like the Chinese are fully taking advantage of this and have some dealings with this. And we will never, ever be told that because we are so compromised by the communist Chinese.
Wow. That is a direct assault, basically not assault. That's a direct calling out to the Chinese. And, you know, Tim isn't the first one, Mike, to go ahead and call out that these drones are from the Chinese, is he?
Michael McCall from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. He's the chairman. We covered this on the show the other night. He made the same comment about the Chinese foreign adversary being involved with these drones. Could be. We talked about that before they started speaking about it out of Congress. We were also speaking about it because Ross Coulthart mentioned it on News Nation, that his sources within the government have told him that the U.S. cannot accuse China directly of involvement with these drones, because if they did, that would be an act of war, and we don't want to start a third world war over this.
No, we don't, Mike. Not even. Well, it looks like there's an FBI drone warning that's gone out. Let me see if I can go ahead and get this video coming down here right now. This is coming from, let me see who this one's coming from here. This one's coming from Fox, I think, in actually ABC or Fox Now. Let me go ahead and bring this next video up. I was going to bring one up with Tim, someone else. Let me go ahead and play this one.
If you drop a penny on a baseball diamond.
Sorry. Tim, stop. You're done talking. It's a cover-up, we know. Here's our next one. FBI issues major drone warning to Americans. This is the first time we've heard him calling out and issuing a warning, isn't it, Mike?
It is. This is interesting.
Maybe it's don't shoot them down, they're ours. Here we go, folks.
And we are back here for you worldwide on Live Now from Fox. Thanks again for joining us. We want to continue to talk about the mysteries in the sky. We're talking about the drone mysteries that are really prevalent across the Northeast, really all across the country. So many of you have been calling in to newsrooms like this one, sending in emails saying, okay, we see this in the sky, we see that. And it's really prevalent right now in New Jersey, New York area. So many people on the daily really talking about it on social media, posting what they saw the night before. Government says, do not worry, this is all normal. Pentagon now saying that this is just recreational drones or maybe some type of police activity within the local areas, but nothing to worry about as far as anything foreign. Let's see if that will continue there, because there's just so much mystery still surrounding this. So let's continue to talk about this. The FBI putting out a major drone warning now to Americans. They are worried that some people are going to start taking this into their own hands and start shooting at the drones. The FBI field office in Newark urged New Jersey residents this week not to shoot down drones or point lasers at manned aircraft, taking to social media to warn against the dangerous and possibly deadly activity which comes amid an uptick in reported drone sightings along the U.S. East Coast. The drone sightings have prompted a collective sense of panic among residents who have taken to social media to share photos and videos of believed drones captured in the darkened U.S. skies. The shared sense of fear-mongering has also prompted some vigilante-like responses, with some social media users documenting efforts to take matters into their own hands, including via laser beam. In the statement released by the FBI and New Jersey State Police, authorities expressly warned against such activities, citing an increase in pilots of manned aircraft in the area who have been hit in the eyes with lasers after being misidentified as a drone by someone on the ground. Officials said that there is also concern that people on the ground could also mistakenly fire weapons at what they believe to be an unmanned aircraft system, or UAS, but in fact it is a manned aircraft. FBI Newark, New Jersey State Police, and dozens of other agencies and law enforcement partners have been out every night for several weeks to legally track down operators acting illegally or with nefarious intent, and using every available tool and piece of equipment to find the answers the public is seeking. The authorities said in the statement, however, there could be dangerous and possibly deadly consequences if manned aircraft are targeted mistakenly as UAS. They also noted how easy it can be for an individual on the ground to mistake a manned aircraft for a UAS. Misidentification often occurs when UAS are mistaken for more familiar objects such as manned aircraft, low-orbit satellites, or celestial bodies like planets or stars.
Just to bring up on this one really quick, folks, the sightings that we've seen where they've seen the actual drones that are in question, these are the drones we're talking about, these are the drones you're looking for, they actually look like a jet or a airplane from the bottom, but they're how they act, how they move and everything, they're clearly not. So they do have some kind of fixed or transposable wing that allows them to move normal and go silent, and allows them to go ahead and hover in place. So clearly what we're dealing with is an advanced aircraft. While it can be mistaken for a plane, there may have been a lot of sightings, like they've said, of people seeing planes, seeing other drones, seeing other stuff. But again, our government wants to address, just like back in the old Blue Book days where they're saying, oh, it's Venus, oh, it's swamp gas. We're going to come up every particular reason why what you saw is not what you think it is. So again, it's just another game of obfuscation and disinformation and misinformation coming from our government.
Which
The
is
statement from the
typical.
FBI field office and state.
Was that Mike? Go ahead.
That's it. Yeah, our government is always spinning the bullshit out to the public. I was
Oh, yeah.
agreeing with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because, you know, again, I'll play the quote we have from people at the FBI about the recent findings.
We ain't found shit.
Okay, here we go.
Police comes as New Jersey residents and lawmakers have voiced frustration about the uptick in drone sightings and what they view as a lack of answers that they have been given by the federal government in response. And I think a lot of the frustration that is happening on the ground from residents is we look at the skies every night, right? We know what a star is and how a star moves throughout the night. A lot of people say, okay, this isn't stars. This isn't an airplane. We know what airplanes in the night sky look like. This is much different. The behavior of whatever is in that sky is acting much, much different than an aircraft or a helicopter. Plus, the sound is not there. And that is what a lot of people are talking about, how the sound, you look up in the sky, you see an airplane, okay, you hear it. Still, you hear it in the evening, right? You know it's an aircraft. But with a drone, it's much, much different. And they want to know who is exactly behind this because it all popped up out of nowhere, right? Just a couple of weeks ago, this has been the talk in the Northeast. This wasn't happening every day. So people are voicing their frustrations, and the FBI now warning, hey, we can't have you shoot these down. So that's where we're at right now. In a joint statement put out just yesterday, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Federal Aviation Administration, and the Department of Defense said that while they recognize the concern from the general public, there is no evidence that the drones are a threat to public safety or to U.S. national security. Now, a lot of people saying, how do they know that already? A week ago, they didn't even know what these were, who was doing this. Now they're saying no threats. So that is what a lot of people are having issue with, and it'll be continued to talk about until we get some real answers. Remember the spy balloon? Remember they said no threat, no threat. They let it go all from the Pacific all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. Then they shot it down over the Atlantic Ocean, and when they got the evidence, they said, "Oh, this was more sophisticated than we thought." After it went all across the country,
yeah.
Then they shoot it down.
Not meaning to go ahead and break this guy from talking so much. There is a new video clip that just came out about more drones being seen over New York City. This is a video that was just posted on Twitter lately. And what we're seeing is, yes, we have a regular aircraft. Actually, maybe not a regular aircraft. We've got several aircraft in the skies over New York City that currently that match the same kind of flashing lights and everything that we've seen that aren't of typical airline movement, especially what's going on. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's what you're showing on the screen right now. That's absolutely not commercial air traffic.
Yeah.
There's no way. So that is independent movement of objects that are not part of the 3 international airports clustered around each other in New York City.
Right.
And it's a distraction to the commercial air traffic. I'm surprised we're not hearing anything coming out of ATC about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have anything on Flight Radar 24 that would show
I have not had time to set that up yet, Mike. So I don't have Flight Radar 24 here, and plus I don't know exactly what time these were recorded to be able to tie that Flight Radar 24 up to what we're looking at right now.
Okay, on the next sighting, we'll see what we could find out. Look into it. It's interesting.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in San Antonio, Texas, just yesterday, there was another video that was put out there on a tweet. Let me go ahead and bring this one up. This looks like your traditional, this is not a drone, I would say. This looks more like your traditional orb configuration. So I would say these are more lines of the in the ways of orbs or UAP than they are drones. But there we go. And that's clearly not a bug. It's clearly not Chinese lanterns. We're seeing them move in a traditional triangular formation. That's not a giant craft, but we see them moving around. Now, sometimes we'll see one orb at a time go flying by themselves, but usually when we see them flying in the air, Mike, they're always in this triangular formation. They're always in some kind of geometric formation.
Right, like the crop circles. They seem to have some sort of, like you said, a geometric configuration. It's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. As I'm trying to put this together on the fly, interesting times, to say the least. There's so many things going on in the skies around us, and it's just trying to keep our cool and take a look at what's out there and take everything with a grain of salt, because some things we're going to see, it's going to be, you know, we know what it is. Some stuff could be something else, but, you know, it's just a matter of taking a look at the sightings and trying to help our audience figure out what we're all dealing with here. As
Lou had said it, truth and transparency, Thomas. That's what it's all about, and that's why we do what we do.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we're trying to bring the truth out to the audience.
Absolutely, my friend. Now, if I can get copy video address, let me bring this next one down, coming to us from ABC News. Come on, download it. There we go. Unknown objects flying around the country. Let's go ahead and bring this one up. Again, I'm just trying to bring these things up on the fly here really quick. This is coming to us from ABC News Live. Hopefully this isn't their cable channel, but I'll try it anyway. Fingers crossed we don't get screwed on it. So here we go, folks. And if it's not a good video, I will stop it and we'll find another one. Here we go.
The FBI and Homeland Security are now deploying technology to help solve the drone mystery over the Northeast. Officials say there are more than 1 million drones registered with the FAA, and thousands are operating in the sky on a daily basis. But federal officials are now worried about people taking matters into their own hands. Joining me now is former F-18 Navy pilot Ryan Graves. He spent more than a decade in the service and testified before Congress about unidentified aerial projectiles back in 2023. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. John Kirby this morning from the Biden administration spoke to our George Stephanopoulos on Good Morning America. Here's what he had to say about the drones before we get started with our conversation.
There are 1 million drones registered with the FAA here in the United States, and thousands upon thousands fly in our skies legally and lawfully every single day, doing all kinds of good things for the public good. These drones, these aircraft are operating the way the FAA requires them to operate in U.S. airspace so that they can be observable and to fly safely. We are on this. We're working it hard. There's no national security threat we're seeing at this time and no threat to public safety.
Kirby says the government is being honest and transparent. Now, in your testimony last year, you accused the government of knowing more than is shared publicly about unidentified objects. What do you make of Admiral Kirby's comments this morning?
Well, with all due respect to Admiral Kirby, his accounting of the situation on the ground doesn't match that of his base commanders, who are having multiple incursions from New Jersey, Massachusetts, and all the way to Ohio and now Utah. So his own soldiers are reporting these events. They are shutting down both public and military bases due to the concerns that they are posing. And I think that they are not being honest with exactly what the circumstances of these objects or these drones are.
And Ryan, last year you told Congress UAPs are in our airspace. You're confident about that, and you said they're also grossly underreported. The FBI has received about 5,000 tips about these drones. That's a lot. As you see these reports throughout the Northeast, what is your reaction?
Well, my reaction is, why weren't we prepared for this? As you stated, I've been talking publicly for a number of years now about just how common these occurrences are, how they do appear to be operating within our military training ranges, and how commercial pilots are becoming very accustomed to seeing these objects that they can't explain. Now, these base incursions that have occurred over New Jersey and elsewhere, this isn't an isolated incident. This has been occurring for multiple years during the same period of time, going back over 3 years now. So I would pose to Admiral Kirby, why is this just an issue that's popping up now if these drones are so common within our airspace? I assure you that our adversaries are watching our reaction to this, and they are taking notes.
I do find it interesting that the Pentagon's UFO report released last month found 21 alleged sightings that could not be explained. Do you think the objects we're now seeing pose any threat to national security?
Absolutely. Their presence alone is a threat. They're unmitigated. They're unidentified. We don't know the owners. We don't know the origin. And if one of these just happens to go boom, I think that the White House is going to have to take a seriously different tone on this topic.
The House Intelligence Committee is getting a classified briefing on drones today. We'll see what they discuss. We're hoping, of course, to learn more. Former F-18 Navy pilot Ryan.
There we go. Interesting conversation, to say the least. Before we get into our next video, I actually found the full interview with Michael Schellenberger on Cuomo tonight on News Nation. Before we take that on, FaZe Will, you have your hand up, my friend.
Yes, Thomas. Hey, just want to congratulate you and Mike on the show tonight. Great job. But yeah, it just seems two things are going on to me, right? It seems like the orb showed up and then they put the drones up. This is my opinion.
From the federal government, you can imagine
showed up, the orb showed up,
agent.
and they put the drones up.
Yeah, absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Now, oh gosh, I got to bring this one up here. We're going to have, well, we'll get that one to a sit. Nick, I've got the video that you've given us in the background. It's an audio clip of Representative Scott Perry from Pennsylvania going ahead and talking about this. But before we get to that, I've got a full clip coming up of Cuomo playing right now. Hello, LMC. How are you?
Oh my gosh, look at you.
Uh-oh.
Hi, thank you. I really enjoyed the show tonight.
Thank you.
So I've been doing a lot of research on Palmer Luckey with his drone technology. He has a company called Anduril, and they can do all sorts of stuff. They can track these drones. They can, shoot them down, water, and the government's acting like they can't do anything. But meanwhile, we've got all this tech out there.
Oh yeah. You know, I would say probably not his tech. We've got stuff from the XP4 from Pterodynamics that looks like, wrong one. I want to open up this one, open here. And I think the craft that we're talking about here, or at least, let me get out of, loaded the wrong application here. Hold on, come back here. Come on, my friend. Let me see if I can find this one. The sizzle video, open with QuickTime Player. Bring it up. I think what we're looking for is not the Palmer Luckey platform that you brought up, but what we've got here. Let me go ahead and bring this one up here with a guest. I think the drone we're looking at is an advanced version of this platform, the Pterodynamics XP4. Now, this one is one that is a transwing platform where they can transition from a hover mode to a platform to a fixed wing system. This one does meet the morphology of what we've been seeing so far, but the only difference is on this one compared to the ones we've been seeing, this one has a flight time of about an hour. There are more advanced platforms on this technology, can go up from anywhere from 7 to 10 hours. So that kind of matches exactly with what we're looking at. So I hear where you're coming from, the Palmer Luckey. I think it's more of this company's technology, a more advanced version, because this matches what we've been seeing in the sky. Does that make sense, LMC?
Yeah, that completely makes sense with some of the images and videos we've seen, but I'm thinking if Anduril could, participate in trying to find these drones or track them down, it seems like it would be a pretty easy solve for those guys.
Of who could?
Palmer Luckey's company, Anduril.
Yeah.
They have.
Well, they could possibly go and look for it, but I don't think it's his. I think it's an advanced version of this. Now, this one is already out there, and it's in the public view. But don't forget, our government usually has 2 or 3 platforms that are more advanced beyond what the public knows about that they're running with.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that comment. Yeah. Now, coming up, getting back to that Cuomo broadcast, let me go ahead and bring this one up. Here we go, folks.
It's not about danger, aliens. It's about why there isn't danger.
How do you know? Why can't he explain that? Independent journalist Michael Schellenberger says, listen, the government isn't being straight with us, and there's a reason. He's out with a new report on this on his Substack Public. It is a must subscribe, and he joins us now. First, all the best to you and the family for a blessed Christmas and New Year.
Happy holidays to you, Chris. Good to see you.
So, Mike, what do you know? Why do you think they're not being straight with us?
Well, look, I mean, I think in that one clip you just showed, Biden does something very similar that Defense Department spokesperson John Kirby did last week, which is that they say on the one hand, they say, we're looking into it. Then 3 days later, Kirby said, okay, we've looked into it, implying that they had looked into nearly 6,000 cases in about 2 or 3 days, which is very difficult to believe. I've been asking the FBI and the DOD and the DHS, FAA for the data. They won't share it with me. Biden similarly said, he said, yeah, we looked into it. There's nothing to worry about, and we're still looking into it. So you sort of see these two things going on. They say they're looking into it, but they already looked into it. That's one of the many fishy things. The other one is that they'll sort of say, well, we know that there's nothing to worry about and there's no anomalies. And then other times they'll say, we know there's nothing to worry about, but we haven't figured out what all the drone incursions are. Chris, I think it's important for people to know that this has evolved from being a story about ordinary citizens seeing very unusually shaped drones, or so-called drones, unidentified drones, over their homes in New Jersey, to really a broader question of why have they been letting all these drone incursions occur over U.S. military bases? I mean, I didn't realize how prevalent this was. I mean, it's Langley for 17 days. This was written up in the in the Wall Street Journal last month. Over 17 days of being able to stop unidentified drones flying over Langley, but also Picatinny Arsenal, Naval Weapons Station Earl, 4 separate U.S. military bases in Britain, 1 military base in Germany, Camp Pendleton, one of the most important Marine Corps bases in Southern California, Air Force Plant 42 Skunk Works, where they developed the stealth bomber, where they're developing stealth fighters, Hill Air Force Base in Utah, the Minuteman silos in Northeast Colorado. I mean, that's just a partial list of all the places where they have had uncontrolled drone incursions. The idea that that's not something you would worry about is absurd. Controlling airspace has been one of the main goals of the Air Force since World War II. It's a pride of the Air Force that they control the airspace. And of course, the base commanders have been worried about this. They've been developing counter drone technologies. It's not working. So I think, look, not to bury the lead a little bit here, but the U.S. military doesn't control U.S. airspace either over homes in New Jersey or over our most sensitive military installations.
So I had Crenshaw and Berra on the other night, which was very impressive to me because Republican and Democrat on the screen at the same time, both saying that they want to deal with this. Both of them came out of the classified session saying, look, I don't think that these are bad actors that are up there. And I think this is really about the government not having its game together in terms of who's supposed to deal with this. And maybe we have to do something as Congress to create standards and create funding for the kinds of detection systems that they don't have now and figure out what the system of hierarchy is. Does that make sense?
I mean, of course, I agree that they need to sort out who has the power to go after these drones. You do want some local and state authority to be able to go after them. But I mean, Chris, if we really thought that those drones were threatening people, then they would have scrambled fighter jets, and there's all this concern about, the dangers of knocking them down. Look, I agree. On the one hand, I don't think there's any evidence that the drones are being controlled by a foreign power. The people that have asserted that it's been a game of telephone, where you've seen people sort of say the Iranians or the Chinese, it lacks both motive and mechanism to pull off an operation like that. If
the
they
loose
were
nuke
to do
stuff
it,
is no good too. And then
What's
your
that?
pal Rogan said it makes them, and the loose nukes thing was a dumb thing also. And then your pal Rogan says it's the best explanation he's heard, and it goes viral. This is the problem when government isn't transparent. You create a vacuum, and it gets filled with poo-poo. Hey, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation.
Oh, my God. Interesting dialogue there, Mike, to say the least.
Oh, you got to love it. Cuomo is from New York. He's not pulling his punches. Yeah, that would be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's right. Without information coming directly from the government, which we know they have, then you're going to hear all sorts of conspiracy theories running rampant. We've said that as well here on the show.
But the one conspiracy theory we keep on hearing is about them looking for WMD. Everyone's saying it at this point.
It could be because of the vacuum that Chris Cuomo just mentioned, or there might be something to it. We don't know yet. We don't have enough information or data to make an informed decision. Until we do, it's just a guess like anything else at this point.
Oh, I know.
Unfortunately.
Absolutely. Now the next thing we have is we have a audio clip. I'm not sure where the hell this is coming from. Let me go ahead and download this first, see if this is something we can possibly play here. Open external application. I need to figure out where the hell this is from. I'm not going to play it because this is something where I don't know where this is coming from. And this is an audio clip coming from, what do you call it? It looks like it's, yeah, TonyPerkins.com. No, and we've got, if you want to call it, Congress or Senator Perry from where do you call it, Pennsylvania, talking about this. But the video itself, I don't know the provenance of it. So for us to go ahead and actually play this at this point, it's dangerous, and I don't want to risk going ahead and getting a copyright strike on the channel.
I understand. It's too bad. I'd like to know what Representative Perry from the House Intelligence Committee had to say.
Well, maybe I could play the audio.
Yeah, that's an idea.
Let's go ahead and just play the audio, and we'll take it from there. Here we go.
Different representatives from the federal government. You can imagine the three-letter agencies that were in the room. I was not satisfied in the least with the information that we received. I actually think that in some cases we had more information than they did, and that's very concerning. I would say this. Look, you can't have officials saying that we don't know who's doing it, but there's nothing to be concerned about.
Right.
Both those things can't be true at the same time, and that's what they're saying. And, you know, that's just inappropriate. So, you know, I've asked for the results of the FBI's investigation. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take me to get them. You know, that, of course, me asking, I don't think that would be anything classified. But we want to see, the American people want to trust in the information they're receiving. And, you know, when you see something with your own eyes, there better be a pretty darn good explanation for it. And don't just tell us that we're seeing things and that they didn't occur, and that, you know, it's the same old, you know, that the government has done to us. And unfortunately, they've just lost all their credibility over the course of time here, as you know. And unfortunately, I left without any answers whatsoever, in my opinion.
So let me ask you this, and I have tried to emphasize that this was a classified briefing, and with that, I know you're very limited on what you can say. So let me approach it from this direction. What more would you like to know? I mean, what are some questions that you would like to have answered?
Well, the questions I would like to have answered are: have you positively identified any of these vehicles? And who is operating them? For what purpose? Have you located the individuals? You know, are they operating within any kind of guidelines? Jody, there are a lot of reports, and some come from the state police, from county sheriffs. I mean, you know, I hate to say it this way, but it's one thing if, you know, the general public reports something, but when a state police officer reports something, having followed up on it and tried to intercept one of these things, or more than one of these things, to me that has credibility, because someone in a position of authority has had eyes on and tried to do something about it.
Well, don't forget, Mike, there were reports from the Coast Guard off the shore of New Jersey saying, up to 50 of these things flying over, and they were completely discounted and dismissed by John Kirby in his press conference and his statements to the press yesterday.
Yeah, according to Admiral Kirby, it never happened, which is what he keeps telling the general public. But we know it did. And they are credible sources, the members of the Coast Guard, which are military, and the state police, which is law enforcement. So Representative Perry is absolutely correct with every one of the points that he just made. I knew this would be a good clip to play. He's a credible source.
Let me play the rest of this. Here we go, Mike.
And for the FBI to not be able to speak to that, to me, is concerning. So, you know, again, those are some of the answers to the questions that I have. You know, are they coming onto the shore? Are they, you know, can you verify, can you validate that the sightings that many people are claiming are real? You know, those are simple questions that you think if you were going to a briefing, you would have answers to.
Well, and it just seems as though this is a clear cover-up. I mean, these are drones. They don't have unlimited ability to fly. They take off from somewhere. They are battery operated. They can only last for so long, and they go back to someplace. This ought to be easy to know, and because of that, it makes you suspect that they really do know something. They're just not telling us. And that in itself is extremely concerning. Congressman Scott Perry, always great to talk with you. I want to thank you. I know you have a ton of things happening right now on Capitol Hill, running every which way but loose. And we deeply appreciate you taking a few moments and joining us with this update.
Yeah. Now, Mike, in other news, off of what's been going on UFO Twitter, it seems that our friend Jason Sands, the whistleblower who was in the program, came out today on UFO Jesus's podcast saying that he was part of a program to go ahead hunt down and kill aliens.
Yeah, very interesting. I've heard mention of that on social media, him talking about it. I don't think he mentioned that in his appearance in the documentary, the program.
And he's been on, you know, he's been on so many spaces. You got to beat him out. You got to beat him out of him with a broomstick.
Yeah, and this is the first time that I've heard him publicly mention anything about that. It's interesting. Yeah, this is something new coming from Jay Sands at this time. People have to decide for themselves what they're willing to believe or not. It's up to the individual.
I've got a video clip. Yes, we'll play it. Hopefully, we won't get a strike from UFO Jesus. It's only a 2-minute clip, so let me go ahead and play this one here. Make sure we've got the crawl up to say yes, this is for fair use, because I had a conversation with him before that apparently didn't happen. But he said I can play his stuff as long as I just play along with fair use on that note. Let's go ahead and bring this one up, because this is one heck of a doozy.
Awesome.
So, yes, I did experience a dirty work program, but I did explain in that first interview that, yeah, that was what I did. They made me do some dirty work for them. When I had to exit the program, that was the deal. It was either that or something bad would happen to me or my family.
Can you elaborate on what that dirty work constituted?
Well, it was kind of very strange. I feel like it was part of maybe an NHI program that they utilize humans, you know, to do things for them that involved kind of being, you know, taken from your bed in the middle of the night, unconscious, and the next thing you're waking up and you've got some work for them to do. They tell you you're going over here, you're going to go in that cave, here's a gun, whatever's in there, kill it, and that's kind of how they rolled. And you either did it or you knew bad things would happen to you or your family. And that's kind of how it went. But it was usually in the dead of night, that kind of a thing.
And you were a part of that?
Yeah.
And when you say kill it, what exactly would you be referencing potentially?
I guess the team that I was on, we killed other NHI for whoever was in charge. I never got to see who was actually in charge of that program. I was only told, do what they say. Otherwise, you're never going to go see your family again. That was kind of the attitude.
Wow. There you go, Mike.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Thomas, no, yeah, very interesting. I wonder why. The only question I have about this clip is, based on what he's saying, I wonder why James Fox didn't include this in his documentary, the program, because it wasn't in there. And something like this, don't you think should have been?
Kelly Brote, girl, I am not buying that one either, my friend.
No, we're not saying that we're condoning or supporting any of these statements. We're just calling them out and stating that if what he is saying he believes to be true, it should have been in that documentary. The question is that I have, why wasn't it? I'd like to know.
A bullshit artist.
You think that could be the cause, Mike?
It's possible. I don't know. I can't speak for James Fox, but
not James Fox. I was talking about Mr. Sands here. My God,
Jay Sands. Yeah. Well, I can't speak for him either. But if that was true, he should have had that in the documentary. That would have been something the audience, would have found to be interesting.
I've got a better. Oh my God, this is a title card.
Oh no.
Oh, it gets better, Mike. Here we go. Oh, here we go. We get up here. Ordered to kill an alien.
Oh.
For Christ's sake. Oh my God. Where has UFO Twitter? Sorry, I'm not. I don't mean to be laughing at someone else's expense. I'm laughing along with the audience. My God, and
take it for at face value with a grain of salt for what it is. Let the audience decide. That's what we usually do anyway.
Yeah. Oh, you want the audience to decide? It's the time for a survey.
Go right ahead.
Oh, let's do it. Oh God. Oh, God.
That's right, folks. Here on Disclosure Tonight, where we're serious about not being serious.
Oh, my God. Yes, we are. But you know what? We can only get into this so far. Let me get that sound effect up, the old pulsing logo. Come on, audience. This is your chance. Oh, where am I at? What do you think? Jason Sands ordered to kill an alien. True or false? This should be a pretty good slam dunk, Mike. But look at that. 26% of our audience saying true. 27%. Oh boy, interesting. Hey Google, set a timer for 1 minute, please.
Sure. 1 minute.
We got a minute on the timer. I'm not going to give you a minute and a half.
Hey Thomas, can you remind people if they like the show to give a good like? This is some great content tonight.
What was? Let me turn down the sound effects in the studio. What was that again?
I think this is some great content tonight. Mind people give people this a like. We got so many people watching tonight.
Oh yeah, if you're having a good time, my friends, I still got about 2,000 people watching the show. It's probably usually the regulars who are here. If you're having a good time, friends, go us ahead and give us a thumbs up. And if not, give us a thumbs down. More importantly, if they haven't subscribed yet to this crazy podcast, what the heck are you waiting for? Give us a subscribe. We'd love to have you as a regular here on Disclosure tonight. My audience is not failing me with 18 seconds left. Let's see if we can get this back to 75%. Oh, we've gone the other way. Oh boy, 10 seconds left to get your votes in, my friend. With only 208 votes in, it's only 10% of the audience. Come on, audience, vote. It's absolutely free. Oh, there we go. The timer has spoken. And so has the audience. Oh, we got down to 71% of our audience, Mike. There we go. Let me turn off the old pulse. Where's it at? Pulsating logo. Don't let me down. Our audience has spoken. Yes, out of our audience it is polled, we had 221 results. 71% of our audience said, was Jason Sands ordered to kill an alien? And our audience thankfully said, it's fantasy. Mike, where would you have voted?
I actually did vote, and I'm with the majority of the audience, obviously.
Yeah.
You know what's really scary about this survey? I have a feeling that if we would have put another minute into it, it might have gotten closer to 50-50. But we have some super chats that came in.
I know. So I got another one. Someone sent me stuff. Well, oh, God. You know what? There's been a bunch of super chats coming in today. I haven't thanked anybody yet. But you know what? Before we get there, we are running late. Corporal Abe, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I stopped listening after Sands said that he was ordered to kill an alien. But then what piqued my interest again was he was saying that his chain of command was going to hurt his family if he didn't cooperate. And I mean, like, I just stopped and thought about it. Like, if my chain of command came to me and said, okay, we're going to hurt your family if you don't do what we tell you to do, then I would have just went to all my buddies in the military and that would have caused a mutiny. You know, like we would have turned on the chain of command. So that whole story was just completely ridiculous. So yeah, I'm with the rest of the audience.
Same thing. No, you're right, Abe. Same thing in law enforcement. If anybody that was in command would have threatened any of our families, first response would have been, you do realize we're armed, right?
Right. Everybody's armed. It's all, like, that's not reality. That's not reality. So I don't know why he would even go that far. I guess it just needs that 15 minutes of fame to create this bullshit story.
Oh, but it's been longer than that. It's been like 6. How long has Jason Sands been on Spaces on Twitter, Mike? Hasn't it been like for months?
A year.
Has it been a year already?
A year. Yeah.
Just muddying the waters for a year. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. But we have to thank, what do you call it, James Fox for initially releasing a clapper from video production with Jason Sands' names on. Remember when you covered that, Mike, and you had so many people on Twitter saying, take down your tweets, don't expose Jason, but it was already exposed by James Fox.
It was, and we also found out, if you remember, that right before he came out publicly on a space, it was 6 months prior that Dave Scott and Courtney Marcassani were working behind the scenes with Jay to bring him out forward to the public before the documentary was released. Something that we were not aware of at the time.
But why didn't
when we broke this?
But didn't they vet him? Didn't they listen to his stories and say, oh my God, what the hell are you talking about? But they believe they took it all hook, line, and sinker, like where we just landed a bass.
Because his military background checked out. He did work for the Air Force, and he did have clearances for the intelligence work, the legitimate intelligence work that he did, and a signals intelligence group, a red team, out of Tonopah testing range in Nevada by Area 51. So his assigned duties in the military were legitimate. The claims that he made, however...
But didn't he see like a huge blue alien taking the story from Rick Doty and repurposing it for his own?
Yes, he did, and we covered it here on the show when that happened.
Yeah.
Rick Yeah, we did. We had a big episode about that. Yeah, it's like what Lou was saying earlier in the show. There are distractions like this that muddy the waters for disclosure, and you have to look at it for what it is and make up your own mind about what you choose to believe or not.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate issues like this when they arise. That's my take on it.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, we've gone a half an hour over at least.
We have.
We have, yeah. And the
Yes,
world hasn't
and-
ended. How about that? So first off, I'm going to go ahead and bring this to a close. And I want to go ahead and thank all of our friends who have given the super chats today. Who am I talking about? I want to thank Ann Joanne. There we go. Ann Joanne gave us last one for $10. Carlito's Way, Shelley Montgomery, Kill the Stigma Podcast, Lord McCormick, Mr. Catfish 2100, Brian Pemble, Carlito's Way again, Austin Gilbert gave us a super chat, one from Mr. Catfish 2100, two from Mr. Catfish 2100, Lord McCormick, three from Mr. Catfish 2100. How about that? Another one from Jimmy Sachowski, thank you very much. Appreciate that, Mr. Catfish 2100. Another one from Lord McCormick. We had one from Brian Cameron, two from Brian Cameron. How about that? Another one from CBUSMC and Shelley Montgomery starting off the super chats tonight. But it's not just about the super chats, my friends. Yes, sometimes it's about our friends in the chat. Who am I talking about? Okay, chat. Go ahead and find yourself, because I'm going to start calling on you in a second here. Let me go ahead and find out who in the heck we still have in the chat for our friends, and I'm going to call out our names like I didn't do yesterday. But you know what? There's a small amount of people there right now, so I can get through it quickly. Who am I talking about has been in our chat tonight? $70 Million Man X, also AK Anton Ghost. April Coleman's been here, along with Are You Saying I Don't Know My Name? Well, yes, I do know your name, because I just called it. B-Max been here along with Brains. Buff's been around along with CCD. Cindy's here along with Commoner 64. We got Country Carpenter. Corporal Abe has been in the chat as well. We got Crossroads Info. DT Digger Dog. DRVB is here. Ed has been around along with F2 Twister, Firefly, Ghost Rider, Giant, Arc, Sephora. Like the perfume store? Maybe. Let's go ahead and thank Gigi Starlings, Greg Johnson, Gringo Suave, J-Cat, Jeff Montgomery, Jeff Pearson, John Butterbaugh. We've also have John Ortega, Jomari Bird, Kathy, Kelly Brotenos, Piercing Blue Eyes. Good to see you, Kelly. King Bull's been here along with Kodoku. Lil Nexus. We have Louis the Fifth. Lucky 81 July. We've got Lynn 60. Marcus and the Mandels. Mary's been here along with Metal Gaming all the way from Denmark. Let's thank Mike Michaela. Michaela McCurry. Let's also thank Mississippi Martian. We've got Nancy, who's been around, Kuzmano, Nicholas Urich. Nowhere Fast has been here along with Peggy and her South Florida friends. That would be Steve, Crockett, and Tubbs. Let's also thank Mr. Pete Liebel. We've got Quinn here, Randy PC. Robert Colford's been around along with Roland Gibbs. I also see Ryan Wheeler, Sam Wallace, Snarf McGrew. I like that name. Solarist 142, and then our longest name up there that I get every single time, Sprightly Sprites. Gemstone, Crystal Mineral Magic. How about that? Star-Lord 1 has been here, along with Stephen Forbes. Not the Stephen Forbes, but our Stephen Forbes. Teddy Favin J has been here along with Terrence Wills. The Chromosome Cowboy along with Moped Universe. The G5 Studio Tomothman has been here along with the Toxic Revenger. Troy, Vic Vancouver, Vito Brada. Warren's been here along with X-Poison X. Yankee 58 and Yellow Tommy Tanker, also known as Andy. But it's not just about our friends in the chat. Sometimes, my friend, it's about our friends in the back who have been bringing up questions. I got a lot of people in the back, but the only people who've asked questions so far tonight has been Corporal Abe. Thanks for coming in tonight, Abe.
Happy holidays. What an epic, amazing show. Happy holidays, Lue Elizondo, Mike D, Thomas, the whole Disclosure Tonight community.
Yeah.
Love you guys. Only 7 or 6 days left till Christmas. I can't tell. I'm in a different time zone.
Oh, yeah. And you got to the end of the month to buy your stuff to go ahead and write it off on your taxes, my friend.
Right.
Also want to thank, I think LMC, you asked a question earlier tonight. Thank you.
He did.
And
thank you so much. Great show tonight, and thank you, Lou. Been watching every night.
Thank you very much, sir. And you're one of our new viewers. Thank you for coming in. Also want to go ahead and thank Liberty Wing UK for flying in here from the UK. Have there been more drone sightings over Lakenheath, my friend? Going once. Going twice. He fell asleep. That's okay. It's late there in the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
How about that? On that note, Faze Will, thanks for the question tonight.
Yes, Thomas, you're welcome. I just want to let you know we have bird flu here in California, and our governor Newsom declared state of emergency.
Why did he declare a state of emergency?
For the bird flu.
Gavin Newsom, for the avian flu that's spreading.
Yes,
sir.
Wow.
Well,
spreading to cows.
Well, spreading to cows. There we go. Thank you, Daryl, for that one. Well. Mike, appreciate you coming out tonight. Thanks for helping set up this conversation with Lou and twisting the arm to get him back at the start of the year.
My pleasure, my friend. It was a great show, and it was nice having Lou back in the fold with us here and having that kind of conversation that the audience got a kick out of.
We can almost say, Mike, he saved the best for last.
He most certainly did. Absolutely. And we're glad we could end out the year and close out the holidays and end his rounds of the interviews here on his home away from home on Disclosure Tonight.
Absolutely. As we usually say, Mike, at the end of every episode of Disclosure Tonight, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everyone. But
go back to Party City where you belong.
Absolutely. We'll catch you tomorrow, folks. Same bad time, same bad channel. See you then. I'll come back now. Here, take care. Bye-bye.